Hello and welcome everybody to the Giant Slayer series, season 2. That's right, I'm DoA, and today we have a very special day. See, because behind me, you can see the new traits that are in TFT 3.5, essentially. I can't remember the exact patch number, but anyway, it's the mid-set patch, returning to the stars. We've got battle. Can I point the right ones? Okay, Paragon. I meant to point at that one, but we'll start with that one. Paragon, Astro, and Battlecast. That's right, our new traits. So we're going to see a lot of that today. My intrepid co-caster Frodan is just now sitting down. He's made it. Frodan, it's the first day of matches on the mid-set patch. How do you feel?
I feel good. I apologize. I actually have some dental thing I had to take care of, so I'm a little bit in disarray. But the good news is that everything is resolved, and I'm ready. I got my morning games in. I lost a lot to Mystic Vanguards, and I'm ready to see it dominate today.
Too. Yes, I think the Mystic Vanguard is obviously the top one everybody's talking about. There's a lot of other stuff. Astro Sniper is a big one as well, but we'll get into all that later. Let's take a look at our format, and as we do that, big shout out to juke.gg for sponsoring the Giant Slayer series. Exclamation point GSS in chat will take you to a magical place where you can view the first person views of all the players playing today. So definitely worth it. As you can see, we are on our third week of season play. So this is a last week players have to accumulate points via the scoring on the right to make it into that final lobby next week, Monday, which is going to be awesome. Let's take a look at the prize pool, see what everybody is playing for right now. A little bit of cash, 1,000 for first place, of course, going all the way down to 150 for showing up. But also, it's a big deal to sort of like come out and be known in TFT. And now especially on a day like today, you've got a real opportunity to become a front runner as far as someone who is early in starting to master the new patch.
That's right. I mean, it's a completely new meta environment for a lot of players. Yes, some builds, some are able to carry over, but for the most part, there's been some real movement in the meta game. And I think it's really been a pleasant surprise because as much as, I started things off by saying like, oh, I think like this comp's going to be really dominant in a cheeky way. I think that there is a lot to consider right now in the meta game. There's no like only one way to play. There's an easier way to play if you want to simply just stick to one build. But overall, there's a lot of viable ways you can go about things.
Yeah, man, we've got like so much to talk about as far as the meta goes. I can't wait to get the game started. I woke up excited about it this morning, which I kind of wake up excited about TFT every morning, but especially this morning. Here are our players standing so far. Kiyoon in number 1 with 66 points and playing more than just mech. All right, want to get that out there right now. He played more than mech to get to this point, guys. He is easily one of the best players in the world right now, way ahead of even Crvor, who also is pretty high up there at 58 points, but still 8 behind Kiyoon. That's pretty insane for 2 days of play, and it goes down from there. Dasic, Gunmay, Lev D making some big progress last week, especially in his games, and then players like Aegon Ine, Unid, and DarkHydra kind of vying for those bottom spots. And again, like I mentioned, this is the last week for these guys to get points and make that top 8.
That's right. It's the first week of set 3.5, but it's the final week for them to get points and qualify for that top 8. Yeah. And, with the middle of the pack being as dense it is, 7 points separating 6th from 13th, there's going to be a lot more movement here. So every single game is going to matter a lot here. So what's going to be the strategy that a lot of players come in? I've been watching a lot of these players stream so far and kind of keeping an eye on how they've been performing so far. And I think that there might be some surprises, in store for today based off what people are feeling like they can bring to the meta game, because it's been really developing a lot over the past couple of days in particular.
Right. And it changes every day, too. So it's been fun to see the quick evolution of it. Here's our schedule for this week, week 3, the last week of tournament play overall, besides the finals. Next week, as you can see, we've got the 16 players divided into a couple different lobbies. We like to mix it up every week, give everybody a chance to play against everybody else once or twice. Let's move on and look at tonight's lobby in particular. You can see it on the left side of your screen there, but there's a little bit better view of it. Gunmay, DarkHydra, Crvor, Unid, Naturesbf, Kitingishard, Sphinx, and Kiyoon will be playing today. Scoring again is on the right side. And this is going to be an exciting group. I think Kiyoon especially is going to be an exciting player to watch. He obviously played a lot of Mech Infiltrator. That build is still in the game. It's just very different right now and absolutely not as strong. He also played a lot of Kale comps. Kale is also just playing out of the game. So that comp that a lot of these players have been relying on is just not going to be playable anymore. So we're going to need to see everybody adapt. Gunmay at the top of the list right there, especially. He's a player that wants to be known as a player that can play a lot of different comps, that is a varied player in terms of his skills, what he's good at. Here's a real opportunity to prove that, I think.
Yeah, that's right. And for today, you know, we've been talking about some of those people in the very middle. Don't really write off people who are also kind of towards the bottom of that standing. We've seen some really impressive days. You know, players like Kiyoon being able to go first, second, first, or second, third.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, players like Crvor has also been able to kind of quietly amass a really impressive performance. Lev last week had a really good, consistent streak. So today, I'm looking at Gunmay in particular. I feel like he's really turned a corner in his gameplay in the past couple of weeks in particular, heading into set 3.5. And overall, I'm really happy with how things have been shaken up. I'm really excited to see what's going to happen specifically for today.
Yeah, you mentioned Lev. He was one of the players that had the biggest improvement, I think, in terms of results from week 1 to week 2. Week 1, he was 8, 5, 6, 7 were his placements in his 4 matches. And then last week was 3, 1, 2, 2. So almost as good as it can possibly get. Massive improvement for him. But I mean, the main story, like we've been mentioning, is that everything is out the window now. It is a totally new meta. The way the traits have changed has blown up all the compositions, pretty much all the compositions that people have kind of relied on for the last few months. So anything is possible, and it really is kind of a race to discover not only what's strong, but also get good at playing what's strong. You know, be ready to pivot. And there's just so many questions out there that people still have. You know, what's the best way to work Janna into a composition? You know, what's the best sort of sniper combination? Because we've got 5 different snipers to choose from right now. There's a lot of experimentation still being done, and still will be done over the next few weeks, despite the fact that we do have some kind of early front runners, I would say, in terms of what a strong comp is right now.
Yeah, that's right. So some early frontrunners to the metagame. We kind of talked about Vanguard Mystic being really popular. Astro Snipers seem to be really good as well. People who play a lot of Cybernetics swear by it. Kiyoon, for example, is pretty much jamming Cybernetics almost like when you watch some of his games, it feels like almost exclusively because it's a really stable build. And then you have like some of these one-off builds that still do really well. Blade Master Blender seems to kind of be a thing, which is like a hybrid of the old Bang Bros comp plus the old Nocturne Blender comp.
Yep.
And then you have some X factors like Jinx Rebel comps are still really good, and then the one-off sorcerers every now and then. So I'm expecting to see a wide range of comps win the lobbies, but you might see some compositions consistently place top 4 versus others. And that's okay, because today, like we talked about, there's several strategies going into the day. Some people just want to secure their top 8, and some people really need to go for gold in order to get into that top 8.
Very true. Speaking of the whole Blender type comp, there's the champion that was part of the old Blender comp, Nocturne. Obviously, he doesn't do the same thing he did before, but he was part of that. Now it seems like Zed is the character that people are making into a Blade Master, but we'll see what Gunmay has in mind. We're in a star cluster as well, so 2-star heroes were picked up off the carousel. Sword does seem to be a pretty strong item to start with right now. Items like Deathblade are still really, really good. I think if you're at a loss as far as what item to pick up, it's hard to go wrong with Sword right now.
Yeah. Overall, Sword just seems to be really stable. One of the most important items for a lot of compositions is requiring sword pieces. You want to play like Giant Slayer if you want to start shredding a bunch of high health targets. Infinity Edge always good. Guardian Angel still very important for certain compositions, especially those that depend on like a solo frontliner like Gangplank or Riven.
Right.
So overall, I think Sword Start is still one of the most versatile, along with Tier.
Yep. Tier Start is something that people can work into a lot of the Vanguard Mystic builds to power up the Cassiopeia. It's also really useful on Teemo if you're going for snipers. Another thing that people are starting to figure out now in the last few days especially is that Last Whisper is becoming extremely important in the meta. So bows and gloves have kind of risen in priority on the carousel over the last couple days as well, because you've got these very tanky comps emerging, which makes sense now that Void is out of the game. It kind of leaves it open for the meta to become a bit tanky again. And when the meta is tanky, suddenly Last Whisper becomes a priority item in a lot of comps.
Yeah, so you take a look at how things are shaken out here. Star Cluster is a galaxy that makes you feel like you might be able to make some comebacks when you generally lose in the early game. So for a lot of players who end up playing Star Cluster, they actually really like this galaxy um, for several reasons, and one of them is because it does seem to be a strategic element of how you choose to approach the early game. Right now, in the early days of set 3.5, it does feel like lose streaking is really bad.
Yes.
Because it does seem like a generally more aggressive meta game right now. And I've seen so many people die, especially if you're on Littler Legend. I've seen so many people die before you even get a chance to look at their Raptor item component.
Dude, Littler Legends is it's hard to say, but it's also a brutal board to play. I have not figured out yet. I generally have not been performing very well in Littler Legends, which is weird because I thought like the early game was one of my strengths before 3.5. But there's definitely some tricky stuff out there right now. I gotta say though, Star Cluster is a galaxy that has definitely grown on me a lot. Partially for the reason that you mentioned, where it does offer some more comeback mechanics if you're kind of keeping an eye out for that. Another thing I suppose you could talk about with Star Cluster in 3.5 specifically is that you can sell back champions for almost full price if you combine them now. So it's you can make those pivots a little bit easier in 3.5 than you could before the mid-set patch as well.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we're talking about with like carousel positioning on Star Cluster seems to matter even more than before, because now when you grab in the later stage of the game a tier 3 unit that's 2-star, you get 8 gold for selling it back.
Yeah.
That's massive,
Yeah.
So if you're like really hurting it economically and you have a component that's okay, I mean, maybe there's like some strategic element of that. Of course, you can also just target a champion, maybe go for some 3 stars. But reroll compositions seem to have largely fallen off. There's a couple that still do well. One of them being the Zed Blade Master we talked about. Every now and then you might see players go mech pilot of some kind. But for the most part, it doesn't seem like people are taking things off the carousel to go for 3-star units.
I think part of the reason why we don't see as many reroll comps right now this week as well is because it takes a little while for the meta to get figured out to the point where people know when to be doing their rolling, and when a reroll comp can be strong. So I think as time goes on and people kind of realize where the kind of power spikes and things are in different comps, so we can start to see some rerolling kind of come back a little bit. Looking at what Gunmay is doing right now, it looks like he's kind of just keeping himself open, finally selling some stuff here and narrowing it down a little bit, but just has, a fairly strong board early on. A couple brawlers, a couple battle casts. You've got the level 2 or the 2-star Nocturne rather, but not really committing to anything yet. Kind of thinking about cybers, thinking about snipers. Not really sure yet.
Yeah, he could go in several different directions. One of them, as you mentioned, snipers is really popular. He has a bow, a sword, and a rod. Those are like the offensive items that you need. A lot of times you end up making Hurricane for a Jhin, an Infinity Edge or Guardian Angel, maybe even a Last Whisper, and then of course Morellonomicon, one of the most universally good items for carries right now. You can put it on Teemo.
Right.
Comes Destruct Force in the lake. So playing open is important. He also is loose streaking, and Gunmay has won a lot on Star Cluster. On this galaxy in Giant Slayer, so I trust that he knows exactly what he's going to pick off the carousel. A lot of offensive items as well. There's 2 gloves. Gloves seems to be also kind of a priority pick for a lot of players, so he ends up going immediately for that Mordekaiser.
All right. So gloves lets him pick up that Last Whisper. Also, if you're wondering, he changed his account name back to Mino Zerks. That's why it doesn't say Gunmay above his little legend set. He went back to the ID that he first found major success with in Teamfight Tactics back when he was a Berserkers player in set 2.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I think that if you look at what he picked off that carousel, with only 2 gloves being offered there versus sword and other offensive items, that means that Gunmay not only has one of the most coveted items in Last Whisper if he wants to take down Vanguard's strict builds, but other people don't. So, I kind of wonder in his mind if this is more of a disguise to start snipers. He's already started to rotate his Nocturne out. If he wants to jam this Last Whisper immediately on Vayne, totally can. He
Yeah,
ends up
for
going
sure.
for it.
Yeah. So sometimes you might see people jam the stuff on the Caitlyn as an item holder for Jhin, but Vayne, since he's got that cybernetics buff, is going to be a lot stronger. She's going to get that stats, and she's going to just do a better job of surviving than Caitlyn in a lot of cases. Maybe not this game, suppress into Blitzcrank pull, but normally she's a little bit better at surviving than that.
Yeah, there's like
I'm sorry, that
off
was my
chance.
fault.
All good, all good. There's that off chance that when Vayne tumbles, she is stealth and no one can really target her, so she drops aggro. But for the most part, because of the way she also tumbles, you tend to get it pulled by Blitzcrank very often. But a very strong cybernetic start here for Gunmay. He's got 5 out of the 6 necessary, and all he needs to do is pick up Irelia. I don't think he's going to get Echo anytime soon, but he's got the foundation for it. So we'll go ahead and check in as we look at the other player who has secured a Last Whisper, and is Kiyoon, who also has an early cybernetics.
Yeah, interesting. Doesn't quite have all the access to all the cyber champions yet that Gunmay has, but this is definitely something you can build off of. Leveling very slowly as well, too, not going for an early 5 or anything like that. Just letting it happen on Krugs, or Terror Bursters rather, which is fairly normal. So we'll see. I want to know who the Vanguard Mystic players are in the lobby right now. We actually see Gunmay playing against Kiyoon right now. So similar comps running into each other. Gunmay, though, did have that extra beefiness with the sniper buff and the brawler buff as well. So finding a win there against Kiyoon, who is down at the bottom of the lobby right now.
Yeah, and like we said, Star Cluster is one of the galaxies where comebacks can happen through the good carousels. But what a stark contrast, starting off winning and then kind of putting 3 losses in a row.
Yeah, and that can happen sometimes. It's just so new in the meta. Like, you just see such big swings. You just see players take such big swings right now because it's really tough to identify when your power spike is going to be compared to everybody else's right now because of all the experimentation going on.
Totally. So, when you're looking at Kiyoon's situation here, he still does have openness to playing snipers. He does have the Morellonomicon pieces. He finds... Ooh, that's another glove. He finds a tier, so if he can just find the blue buff, everything will be good, and he can go back to playing a sniper's game plan. But I know Kiyoon particularly really likes Irelia right now in the metagame.
Okay.
And if you're able to get an Infiltrator Claw right now, you can also still really do a lot of work.
Yeah.
And it does seem that right now, in the early days of 3.5, you totally can play a composition and pivot based off a spatula that you get, or a really powerful item.
I think that's one of the most exciting things to me about, I think that's one of the most exciting things to me about this 3.5 meta right now is that it really seems like spatula compositions are coming back in a big way. We're seeing Blade Masters, Infiltrators, Star Guardian with what Janna can do. We're seeing Rebels, obviously. Protector Aurelian Soul is a big thing now. Not as big as it was before it was hotfix, but still strong. So, I remember just like last week or sometime in the recent past, you and I were talking about how spatula compositions just weren't very big in set 3. And I feel like 3.5 has kind of turned that on its head a bit.
Yeah, and one of the important things too is that Kiyoon started jamming his items. I kind of mentioned some of the possibility of what he could end up doing with his items, but what's important is that he wanted to prioritize getting back his win streak because he has lost a lot of AP, and you don't really want to fall too far behind, though you do get good.
Yeah. It's interesting to see him do different positioning things like this. I think a lot of people would put like the Vi on the outside to keep the Caitlyn from getting pulled, but it's really not that bad. Okay, he does do it at the end. I was about to be a little bit surprised because you could do that because she's not going to do a lot of damage. But I'm glad to see him do that because I was like, am I playing this wrong? But seems okay now.
Yeah, I think this Locket is pretty smart just because he doesn't have a lot of 2-stars right now. And so he needs to compensate for his front line. And Vayne can end up killing off everything, but if she's given enough time...
Deathblade.
Yeah, Sphinx has the ideal Jhin items, for what many people consider to be Deathblade. Personally, I think Last Whisper also is really good on Jhin, as well as Giant Slayer. Pick any of
Crvor.
those items.
I think okay, so there's the Cassiopeia right now. So we'll see if he sticks with it. Might be a player there. I think I just saw a mech sorcerer player as well too. We we were talking a bit earlier about the mech, and it seems like as far as mech builds go right now, mech sorcerer is the strongest. I've seen some people experiment with mech infiltrator. I've experimented with it a little bit. It's doable, but yeah, you probably want to go Sorks this time. Just Vanguard Sork for Crvor right now, but yeah, it looks like he could go mech. I think he's just going to keep playing mech. Crvor played a lot of mech infiltrator before the patch, and he may just play mech sorcerer after the patch now.
Yeah, Mech Sorcerer seems to be one of the more stable versions of a Sorcerer build right now,
Yeah,
largely because just use really powerful frontliner through the mech, and then you let your Sorcerer work at the back. Some people choose to play Gangplank very well
right.
if you can't find like a really good Victor. And it seems like, the early frontrunner for the best way to play Sorcerers. However, it feels like in the past couple days, particular 6 Sorcerer builds that like swap in Star Guardian synergy versus just like a frontliner Riven slash Gangplank seems to also be on the rise. So I would also be looking out for that, which is right up
Mhm.
DoA's wheelhouse.
Yeah, for sure. I think the Vanguard six sorcerer feels a little bit weaker right now than it was because your Vanguards tend to melt a little bit quicker in this meta for various reasons. The Riven Gnar frontline that some people were running seems pretty good. Riven GP obviously is pretty strong as well. So we'll see. It is developing. I need to test a little bit more.
Yeah, I think that for me, I've actually tested Sorcerers a lot because it seemed to be the most open lane. I think with people seeing a
Yeah,
lot of Mystics, Cassiopeia carry, it feels like people don't want to play Sorcerers.
definitely.
However, I actually really love this pickup, by the way. It does cost him gold. Um, it cost him the 1 gold up for him selling it back, and also the 1 gold of interest, 50. But I think it's
Mhm.
important for him to beef up that front line. Talking. But
Yeah,
just to finish
Nico
the
too
thought
is
on,
strong as well. So
yeah, just to finish that thought real quick on
yeah.
the sorcerers. For the most part, I think every one of my conclusions is that if you get a spatula, that's when sorcerers become a lot more viable. But then you start to ask, am I playing the best spatula-based composition, or am
Yes.
I just simply just kind of trying to force it because I want to?
Yeah, it's tough too because it's such a mystic heavy meta right now as well that sometimes your sort comps just run into that guy in your lobby and or those four people in your lobby and you're like, well, I guess this isn't working out. If you get Janna late game, obviously you can convert the attacks at least from your Star Guardians into true damage, but I feel like the big barrier right now for sorcerers is the mystic heavy comps that we're seeing right now. But again, like it's so hard to really make any firm calls on the meta right now because it's all changing and evolving so fast.
Yep, that's right. So with this, Kiyoon really trying to see if he can go for that really crucial level 7. We've been seeing a ton of people choose to roll on 7 instead of going for a fast 8. Fast 8 is if everything has been going well, or you need a Hail Mary for the one legendary that's missing in your composition to make it really go well.
Yeah.
So Kiyoon, he's going to take another losing streak. And, after this round of Infiltrator drops, he's going to really pray to find that Aurelia 2 or some other option. Right now, his lose streak is not going.
Yeah, for sure. He needs to basically like find a line. He needs to either commit to cybernetics or move into something else. The Timo on the bench is always a little bit tempting, but it just doesn't seem like he's got the items to support it this game. So
Yeah.
it's probably going to be cybernetics, but we'll see what items he gets off of infiltrators now.
Yeah, I actually like this preemptive sell as well. And I
Sure.
do want to see this roll down here for Kiyoon before we go. He finds a vein too,
Mm,
just off the boxes. That's huge.
yeah, that'll be really helpful. Cybernetics, Vayne right now. It seems like Vayne and Aurelia are your main carries from what I've seen.
Okay.
Do you pick up a Jace too? I don't think so.
I mean, he doesn't have
He does.
all 6 cybernetics in right now, so
Uh-huh.
instead he's probably just gonna play best board. And I think with that Jace 2, that Vayne 2, Kiyoon could stop rolling because that is a significant power spike. Carry got to star. Speaking of
Yeah.
which, DarkHydra, he's not going to be discouraged from playing Jinx comp. Jinx comp seems to have fallen off pretty significantly from a lot of popularity, but still very effective if you get the right items on her. It's just that, right now it seems like with so much tankiness in the meta, it takes forever to get Jinx to reset, but not if you get her 2-star with the Deathblade in.
I was going to say, yeah, the Last Whisper Deathblade helps a lot with that. But I think right now, Brawler Blaster and Blasters in general is just getting sort of a little bit ignored because it's kind of like it's not the new toy, Right now, like Cassiopeia is a new toy. Snipers are the new toy, right? Brawler Blasters still seems like a very strong, solid comp, especially with that Rebel package added in, which I think you're pretty much just going to always use now. But it's just not the new hotness, right? So I think Brawler Blasters, in my mind, is a comp that's going to like rise again. It's just going to take a little bit of time for the novelty of the new traits to kind of wear off a little bit because it's still really good.
Definitely. I think another problem with Jinx carry compositions is that, like you said, we know the potential is there, but this also does seem like a meta game where you want to have multiple forms of carries and make your one carry, your usual hyper carry, a little bit weaker. And that's because there's so much CC and there's people like Gnar and you really want to spread it out. Right. So overall, with a lot of threats out there, the Jinx 2 carry seems to be working out for Hydra. He's going to have to figure out what is the plan afterwards, because right now everything is kind of built on a house of cards. He's got only Jinx and Blitzcrank at 2-star. He's going to need a little bit more if he wants to successfully.
Yeah, you can kind of go a couple different ways with this right now. One of the ways I really like is making Gnar your second carry. He's basically set one Gnar. He does pretty much the same thing, or pretty literally the same thing. And he gets really strong when you hit 2 stars and put items on him, just like original Gnar did. You can also see that Master Yi at the bottom replaced at some point by an Aurelion Soul. And Aurelion Soul 2 stars, of course, going to be really strong as well. So late game, you can sort of, turn the Gnar or the A Soul into like one of your carries, possibly. We'll see what he goes with. I like the double Gnar for now, though.
Yeah, double Gnar, I think, is just probably the best 2 1-stars that you can play in the game.
Yeah,
because of how impactful his E is. Oh, the Riven versus the Master E, but the triple item Riven survives just barely.
Those shields, man.
Able to survive that fight and snap DarkHydra's winning streak.
Yeah, so he's going to have to wait until the last pick in the carousel here, along with Crvor.
Yeah.
Let's see, Sphinx grabs the belt. See what else everybody else grabs here.
I think my priority would be a sword so that he can get a Guardian Angel for Gangplank. I think the best performing statistically, the best performing Jinx variant compositions tend to include Gangplank right now for the Demolitionist buff, so that way you can get Saul. Oh my god, he just gets the Gangplank anyways?
Really?
Oh, wow. That's sick.
All right. I mean, that's huge because, you can just put the Ziggs in instead of the Master Yi. You can easily work Demolitionist into this. And this is one of the fun things about this meta right now is that, he sells it. Okay, so not thinking Demolitionist this time, despite the fact that he had the Ziggs on the bench.
It probably is just more of an itemization thing. And Gangplank is like if you can get to 9 very safely. And it seems like right now, DarkHydra is prioritizing just the 4 Brawler Rebel build that he's going for right now. And, quite candidly, it's still a while away because, like we said, he doesn't have the items for it. He would have to play Ziggs as a 1-star, and it's not even very good.
Yeah, I think maybe if he would have had the Guardian Angel components, there could be an argument for putting in the Gangplank and the Ziggs, but without there, you can take it slow. You're number 1 in HP in the lobby. You're probably going to be able to keep doing fairly well.
Right.
So why rush it, right?
Yeah. And you can see that this 2-star Jinx doing work, and from DarkHydra getting it before 4-1 was absolutely massive. And one of those things where it becomes a self-correcting wheel, because if everyone's like trying to get Cass, everyone trying to get Jhin, everyone trying to get Vayne and Irelia, then people are going to ignore Jinx and you just kind of stumble into a Jinx 2 anyways. And with DarkHydra's items, it looks really good.
Yeah, pretty much. The funny thing is I'm surprised how many Brawler players there are in the lobby, actually. It seems like we've seen a lot more Vanguards as far as front lines, which in a lot of other lobbies I've seen has made Gnar 2 pretty easy to achieve. I almost got Gnar 3 in a game yesterday, actually. I was 1 away. Would have been so nice. But I think normally I really like Brawler Blasters right now. I haven't played a lot of it because I want to play around with the new stuff, but you can see the success that DarkHydra is having, and I think in your own games on ladder, you can probably find a lot of success with this too, because it's a comp most people know how to play, and it's relatively uncontested right now.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's kind of it's shockingly uncontested, and you can see DarkHydra already preemptively getting ready for the level 9.
Mhm.
Jinx 3 is still a very good win condition. Funny enough, you kind of mentioned the rise of brawler popularity, and I think it has to
Mhm.
solely do with Gnar. I think Gnar is one of the most loved champions,
Oh yeah,
definitely the most popular champion right now being played in every composition. It's like Gnar is useful.
he's so
Um,
good. It's just
he's
like set one Nar, man. Having a Nar two on your team is always going to be huge.
yeah, he's also adorable. So it's kind of OP if you
Until he
ask.
ults.
He really does it all.
Yeah. No, I'm so glad they brought Nar back. He was one of my favorite champions using set one. I think a lot of people would say that. And he'll
Okay,
be contested
this
too.
is what I was
Ooh, here we
talking about.
go. Yeah, yeah.
So, oh, interestingly enough, you need passed up the gangplank, and I know that this is, one of those compositions where you really want Riven to carry, but he's only on Riven 1. It's not like he has
Mhm.
Riven 2. And also, Gangplank with 6 sorcerer buff is pretty nasty. I guess he only has 4 sorcerers, and he is prioritizing the Star Guardian variant because he has Victor. But
Yeah.
still, I really appreciate a good Gangplank frontline since it seems to do a much better job scaling to the late game than Riven.
Yeah, here's the problem that I've run into with sorcerers, and the same problem that Unit is running into with sorcerers right now as well, is that two vanguards oftentimes at this point in the game just doesn't cut it in terms of keeping your team safe anymore like it did before. Things like Cassiopeia just eat right through it. So you're kind of forced into situations like this, and he should absolutely pick up this Ribbon too here. But you're forced into situations like this where you have a very strong backline. Like the sorcerer part of your build looks great, and the Star Guardian part looks great, but your front line is just so weak. Now, he is also not running 6 sorcerers. He's trying to
Yeah.
utilize the true damage on the auto attacks from Star Guardians via the Janna, but it just might be a little bit too early. He's got
Oh.
9 HP. I don't know. I don't know if this is going to work out. And here's Crvor.
Yeah.
Yeah, playing another mech build.
Yeah, Crvor loves the mech, but the Riven 2 is a significant upgrade.
Yeah,
He does
huge.
have 2
Oh,
of
the
the best
waltz.
items for Riven, and now Victor's going to go in for the hit, and can the Xerath kill off the mech pilots in time? It looks like it can.
Yeah,
So,
that was close.
hold on, the demolition is stunned. That's huge.
It is. GA comes in, but no, not quite strong enough. Yeah, it is funny what a big difference there is between Riven 1 and Riven 2. Like Riven 1 just gets melted. She does nothing. Riven 2 suddenly becomes an insane tank that survives like really, really long.
Yeah,
So that's like it's a huge power spike to hit that Riven 2 finally.
very
And
much
if you get
so.
hit the Nico 2, that's great as well.
It's true, although Nico long term is not actually supposed to be, and it's just like
No,
a
but if you're running 6 Star
temporary.
Guardians, I guess you do run the Nico too.
Usually a lot of the builds that succeed don't really run Nico because she's fairly expensive. You'd rather play Ari than you would have instead of a 6 threat.
Yeah, I
And that's
think you
another
just
thing.
need the front line. Oh, that Vic
Yeah, and that's like the ultimate thing, which is long term. As looks like Kiting was contesting, that's partially why it's been
mm,
harder for need. But long term, all these sorcerers players will have to think about how they get to level because that's when the comp becomes the strongest. 'Cause you can hit sorcerers. Until that point, you're playing 4 or you're not getting Star Guardian buffs. And with
yeah.
Victor, he really needs to get that Star Guardian buff. And he also needs to get a really good item for Victor here. Morello is great. Shojin's another consideration.
Yeah, I think the Shojin's looks pretty solid. Morello's is nice, but just getting more casts off, I think, is going to be the more useful thing. Not to mention the sword and the Shojin's, I guess, helps amplify it a little bit the true damage that Victor will be doing with his autos since he's a Star Guardian now.
Yeah,
But this is interesting.
the last option was to pick an item for Xerath. His Xerath is already a 2-star unit, and
Yeah,
he might even just slap this Shojin onto Xerath so that way he can cast quicker. And because he has Janna, Xerath's auto attacks also do a pretty sizable amount of damage. So I would also be totally okay if he chose to itemize the Xerath, but if he did, he probably would have wanted to go for a Trap Claw instead. So that way he
Mhm.
can guarantee Xerath's safety instead of getting interrupted by a Narf.
So here's a question that I have that I don't actually know the answer to. Maybe you know. With Xerath, if you put the Star Guardian item on Xerath, do all of his attacks start to become true damage when he ults because his attacks change?
That's a really good question. I've only pretty much prioritized getting the Victor as a
Yeah,
Star Guardian, but it's
that's
funny because
standard.
maybe putting Xerath as a Star Guardian, there's some merit to it. But overall, you play Xerath not for his auto attacks, you play him for this exact thing, which he's just trying to go and answer the snipers. But
Oh, you
Nature's
need this out.
able to get the last hits, and because of that, you need is dead in seventh. Nature's with that sniper build, talking about that Jin Timo carry, which has been doing very well so far.
Yeah. I think there is something good in the realm of sorcerers somewhere, but it just hasn't been quite polished yet. As we go and check out what Crvor is up to here, and he is running something pretty interesting. So he's running essentially a little bit of everything, right? He's not committing to 4 Sorc, he's not committing to 4 infiltrators. He's got 2 mystics added in actually. I love the Lulu here, especially because he's got the Star Guardian bangle on that. So if he can hit another Star Guardian at 9, that Lulu will be casting pretty quick. Either way, it's
Ooh.
pretty strong, but it's a balanced approach to mech. I wonder how well this is going to work.
Yeah, I believe this build started originating in Korea and it gained a lot of popularity. It was like mech plus
Oh,
like a bunch of
we got easy.
splashes. But yeah,
uh,
part of the issue is that he's actually playing a level 7 mech. He doesn't even have Fizz 2. And mech starts to become serious when it starts to hit level 8. So I think
yeah,
Crvor needs to find that third Fizz, which seems to be eluding him right now. And then the second thing is kind of like what you were talking about, which is that he's playing very flexible. And I think the real thing is that he needs a gank. And he would
yeah,
want to actually transfer these Victor items to gank so that way he can guarantee that big AoE. And then when you do, you kind of get that like Korean Jin build that we saw in the last previous patch, where it was like you can play 2-2 of everything and just have multiple sources of CC damage.
yeah. I would agree. I mean, I think the thing with 3.5 that stands out as far as a lot of the new champions that have been added in is just how much crowd control. And there he finds a GP, but just how much crowd control there is in the meta right now. A lot of hard CC, a lot of displacement effects. And so the more of that, oh, faster impact. He passes it over. Interesting. The more you have of that, the better. He
Yeah,
wants to
he
roll down and find that fizz too.
yeah, he needs to find his 2-star legendaries. He really, really wants badly to find another put in. He could put another Star Guardian. Lulu 2 is big. Janet could
Okay.
go in as well. And
Yeah, I
this
like that.
is the ultimate form of what he was going for. I would love to see him attach this static shiv on somebody. Lulu would be a good consideration.
Just puts on
Shaco's
the Shaco, I
okay
guess.
as well.
Hmm.
I would say that's not the best user of it, just because Shaco's not really a carry composition.
Yeah, I
So
would also, now that he has a Lulu too, prioritize the Lulu alt sooner. That makes a lot of
yeah,
sense. So I feel like I've been seeing GA come back on Mech a lot lately. Have you been seeing that too?
I've been seeing it on and off. I think most people just really prioritize Bramble Vest because of the snipers that are currently in the metagame.
Mhm.
Then second item, of course, is
Ooh,
QSS. Everything
yeah.
else is flexible on. A Janna 2, huh?
You definitely want the Janna too. Yeah.
Yeah. So now, the moment we find another victor, I really want to transfer these items, just because Gangplank right now as a demolition is pretty much just cosmetic. He's really not going to get off his ability very.
Right. If you sell the Victor, who do you find as like a new sorcerer though?
Oh, just fine. Just play a
Find
victor.
another Victor?
Although Victor 2 still very strong, even just with a 2
Yeah,
sniper buff. It's just that
that's the thing.
the Gangplank stun is just so valuable, and if you can guarantee it, you'll be in a good spot.
Victor getting bounced around like crazy. Did get a good ult through the middle of the team actually though, and it looks like Crvor should still win this one
Yes, he very
pretty
much
easily.
can. You
Yeah,
know
so
what?
Dark. Yeah.
I just take it back. Victor is still doing a very good job carrying even right now as a star. So I guess he doesn't really need.
Yeah, Crvor in the top 3. Gunmay went out at 4th. Nature's just barely didn't make it into the top 4. He went out in 5th. So Kiyoon, Crvor, DarkHydra, and Gunmay are the top 4 our first lobby. That is big. Finally hitting the Fizz 2 for Crvor.
Yeah. Fizz 2 is really big. Sees, really powerful damage-based composition. Hopefully that mech can get there. This Lulu with the Star Guardian spat is actually so huge because she's casting very early in the fight, and now he's here to receive both Echo and Fizz, which is massive.
Well, the Lulu cast did not do a lot that time, unfortunately, for him.
Yeah, because the Echo really pretty much shut all that down, and so now it looks like Jinx has finally got all the resets off.
Run! He might still live. Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, I didn't know if he really needed to run away right that round. Down to third. Kiyoon still alive at the moment. He did take damage, though. This is a pretty tight top 2 between Kiyoon and DarkHydra. I really do like the Aurelian Soul in the Brawler Rebel Blasters comp, just because it messes with targeting, and Aurelian Soul is just so strong right now, too.
He really wanted that Trap Claw. It would have been very big, especially to protect his carry, like Victor, for example, or Gangplank. Does end up going for the Locust and backlining a lot of stuff, so that makes sense.
Sure.
So we'll see if he's able to do it. I also wonder exactly this problem, which is how does he solve for the Urgot situation? Urgot will go through the mech and the Guardian Angel. Urgot's ability brings them in, reels them in slowly, and kills them, and it burns through GA. Much to the chagrin of every player that goes up.
I don't know how I feel about Urgot, because on the one hand, I love watching him eat things. It's so funny. But on the other hand, I hate it when it's done to me. And when you get to these late game situations where you've just got a Thresh pulling in like multiple Urgots, it gets so annoying to play against.
Yep.
So I don't know. Urgot makes me feel happy and sad at the same time.
Yeah, and the Thresh was placed so that way it would make sure to try and target in the back. He finds Lulu, and Vayne isn't really getting there. Kiyoon trying his best to survive, but this is death.
It is. Interesting. Wow, and Crvor takes number 1. He was in the top at the very beginning, and wins his first game on 3.5 with Mech, playing things pretty balanced. He's pretty pumped about that, it looks like. But yeah, that's a big statement to come into a 3.5, play a comp that people have not. It's been talked about, but it hasn't really been that hyped. Like, we've heard a lot of hype about Vanguard Mystic, about snipers, obviously, not so much about Mech. And Crvor comes in and wins game 1 with that.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily even fair to call it like a Mech sorcerer build, because he pretty much just had Victor in. He's not playing like 2 other sorcerers, which don't really do much. Instead, it seems like he's well balanced, having tankiness and utility. Damage, tankiness, utility, as well as a really powerful mech to AoE. It's still a very viable build, and I actually had lost to a build like that today, where I was doing really well. I was like top 2, and then all of a sudden I took a major loss against a mech player that played the exact same build, and then I lost again a few rounds later because top 4 and 4th. Wow, I can't believe I got bodied by them.
I think it's great. I really feel like that is sort of like the mech that was always intended, where it's the centerpiece of the build, but there's a lot of fun supporting stuff you can do around it that is adaptable. You can change it. You can run Force Orcs. You can put in the Mystics. You can go Infiltrates a little bit more. So initial impressions of the mech in 3.5 are very good. It feels like it's finally maybe falling into the place that it was intended to be in from the beginning.
Yeah, and I think that overall this seems to be a healthier version of mech, so to speak, where yes, the mech is hard to answer, but you don't have like the infiltrators that are going into the back line and kind of destroying all your carries while your tanks are occupied by it. And another thing too is that it didn't seem like Crvor got the optimal items, but he utilized them really well. And again, that 3-star Guardian on that Lulu and getting that Janna 2 really fast, huge. And you can also see that he wasn't necessarily just like staying at 6 and rolling for 3-star everything. He needed to get to 9 so that we can get all of his synergies on. And so with that being said, if Mech's strongest at level 9 and has to be uncontested and has to get like pretty solid items, then I think that's a much better spot than it was in the past, where mech infiltrator was just way too.
Yeah. Surprising thing about game number 1 to me is I don't think we had anyone playing Astro Snipers that game. Maybe we just didn't see it, but I don't recall anyone playing that board.
I believe Nature's ended up playing with it, but
Was he
wasn't able
maybe? Okay.
to, crack top 3 there.
We didn't see him play. We didn't see any rounds with him last game, but I was going to be shocked if nobody did that because it does seem very strong right now. But I think if you're going to play snipers, you really do need to get a Last Whisper. Otherwise, you're just not going to be able to handle the front line of some of these other comps, or the mech for that matter.
Yeah, as we head into the Nicoverse, definitely keep that in mind. I would say that Snipers is the one damage-based comp that doesn't need a Last Whisper as
Really?
like being mandatory. Yeah, because I mean, Jin does like you can reduce a lot of damage, but if Jin has 4 shot and he hits guaranteed with critical strike, you're gonna.
Mhm.
But that's an and Teemo, he does mainly AP damage, so it's really about the miss.
Right. You wouldn't put it on Teemo. You definitely put on Jin. It's interesting you say that. I felt like the sniper builds I was playing were really struggling to get their front lines right up until I started building, prioritizing Last Whisper on Jin, and then they started having a lot more success with that. But
I'm saying that you'd be better with Last Wisp. My 3 ideal items: Last Wisp, the Edge, and Ordnance. Although some people play Guardian Angel as well. Kind of mixed in 3 out of those 4. But I mean, I think I'm saying that out of all of the damage-based composition, Jinx, like Cybernetics or Vayne, and then the snipers, I would say snipers is the one that needs it the least.
Okay, yeah, I'd agree with that. All right, so Crvor, on board with him again, and we'll see what he goes for. I would imagine he's just going to stick with mech compositions. No doubt, it's probably what he's been practicing exclusively since the patch happened. I haven't asked him, but you would think so, given that that was kind of his strategy before the patch happened. And as far as his results go, he had a pretty good week 1, but last week was very, very rough. 6-8, 7-8 were results, but not giving up on the mech. It's encouraging to see. It's cool to see a player like pick a strategy and stick with it and just try to refine that,
Yeah, and again, it's something that's less contested. So I think it's a smart play from Crvor, and also knows that based off the way other people are playing, we mentioned that Kiyoon, a player that loved to play mech in the past, he's not really playing mech at all so far in this set. So I think this is a reasonable approach to things.
Yeah.
He's trying to think about his early game board in this spot. Doesn't seem like he has many good things going, so just going to go ahead and try to play a reasonably sturdy board.
All right. Yeah, just jamming his items. So Titan's Resolve on Alawi. And Alawi's an interesting champion that I feel like we're going to see a lot more use out of later in the set as people start to figure out how to maximize her defensive stat stealing. And maybe Titan's Resolve is a way to do that, actually, where you're kind of building damage, but you're also building defenses as you're stacking towards that big defensive boost at 50. So I wonder, I feel like Alawi is a champion that can become very, very strong when people figure out how to use her correctly.
Yeah, and I think that because she's fairly unique with like the ability, she's a cheap brawler. Surely there's going to be like some use besides just a bridge to get to 4 brawlers.
Yeah.
So and Battlecast, I'm sure right now is relevant, but there probably will be a patch where it makes Battlecast like crazy strong. So keep a lookout for that, because right now Battlecast doesn't seem like a synergy that people tend to be really happy about. But a lot can change in the next coming few weeks here.
Funny enough, I had a couple games where I ended up getting like multiple Battlecast spatula items, and so I was able to get up to 4. And I feel like when you hit 4 Battlecast, you start to notice it. But yeah, 2 Battlecast is basically nothing. But who knows? Maybe it'll become bigger in the future.
Yeah. So looks like Crvor getting kind of bullied by these early cybernetics, but that TF landing the Morello Namicon hits twice on the Lucian was huge. Lucian didn't get the
Yep.
dodge. That kind of dynamic is always very scary as the TF player, because whenever you throw the cards, Lucian dashes, and it all comes down to whether or not Lucian can dodge it in time, and you have no control over that outside the initial positioning.
Pretty
Always a
much.
little tense moment in the beginning game.
Lucian's so good at dodging. There go the Alawis. He's going to go for the Chrono Brawler Sorcerer synergies, which is pretty nice. Annie got a big buff, got like a big individual buff in the patch. So she's a pretty substantial tank, actually, if you can get her up in the front line and get her, fighting. More damage, more shielding.
Yes.
She's low-key very strong right now.
Yes, Annie completely reasonable just to play on the board now. Before it kind of felt like you were trying to intentionally lose if you play just like an Annie, but she can definitely do it. And Crvor gets a very crucial win. This win was very big to keep his streak, so that he can keep his pairs, and that overall he can keep the momentum, so that way he can get the item he wants just a round earlier.
The confidence from Crvor is contagious. You can feel it. We talked a little bit earlier, though, as it looks like we're going to move over and see what Nature's is up to soon. But we talked a bit earlier about the sorcerer builds, and one of my theories, and I haven't been able to test it just yet, is that Annie may actually be a good sort of bridge tank for that build now. It's something I need to try a little bit more of, but I've got a feeling Annie is being incredibly underutilized and incredibly underestimated right now in the meta.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that continues to develop as we switch POVs to another sorcerer-based starting opener here. We're heading around with Naturesbf, who was tweeting before the event that he hasn't been able to play as much in the past few days, and he's been trying to catch up, but he's not feeling nearly as confident. And Natures was a player that we were trying to hype up a little bit in the first 2 weeks. And now that he's kind of in the middle of the pack in terms of standings, not really topping out, he really needs to do well. This is his last chance to do so.
Yep, very true. Looking at Nature's last results as we go into this round, he had a rough week last week. 5-5-5-7 were the results of the games. So he's only finished out of 8 games so far, not counting today. Out of 8 games, he's only finished in the top 4 twice. So yeah, today is a day that needs to be a really good day. But he did finish 5th actually in the first game, so he is already off to a little bit of a rough start.
In terms of going for bottom 4, it seems like Nature's is at that doorstep pretty regularly. Finds 2 opportunities to upgrade his units, his Poppy and his Zoe. It does kind of come down to, well, I mean, does he want to get that Ionic Spark onto Jace? That's actually something that he wants to think about as well here.
Maybe. I guess 82 is not that low at 2-6, actually. You're 7th in the lobby, but honestly, your HP are not that bad.
Okay, he wants to intentionally throw this match so that way he can guarantee his losing streak.
Hey, I mean, that's a strategy too. And to be fair, he hasn't lost as much HP as you can lose sometimes on a loss streak like this. So it's kind of, that was a big loss. But in general, it's been like the better end of a loss streak for Nature's this game.
Yeah, it's interesting that he ended up selling the Jace, and seems like he's going to be committing towards that for a while. If he does end up wanting to go for some kind of Mystic Vanguard setup, because you can play that Ionic Spark on the Jace, and then you can play that blue buff onto Cassiopeia. Jace is pretty important to that composition, one of the more central tanks in the very beginning of mid game that stays all the way to the end.
Does this beat Terror Bursters? It might not. I think he should. I think he does. I mean, Graves actually helps a lot. Oh, okay, he should be okay.
Yeah, I think he's fine.
I was worried for a second though.
Okay, spatula. So what can you do with that now that you have these items? You could make an Infiltrator Claw. Doesn't seem particularly good. It finds 2 Vanguards. RFC for the Cassiopeia? What?
Yeah, I mean, you could go for that. Like you might have to pivot here. because those are not really items conducive to having a successful sorcerer game.
Yeah, I think he was staying open to the idea of sorcerers, especially as a mid-game bridge.
Mm-hmm.
You definitely don't generally want to go in with the game plan of wanting to play sorcerers right now, it feels like, because
Oh,
it seems like
totally.
sorcerer needs a specific set of conditions met before you can feel confident in going forward with it. But yeah, it
Yeah.
looks like this is straight up going to be a Mystic Vanguard opening. If he can find Cassiopeia, he already has 3 Vanguards and just has to find 1 more Mystic.
Yeah, I think that would be smart too. Blue buff RFC are pretty great items on a Cassiopeia as well, so he's got a good strong start there. But gonna have to take some losses beforehand though. It's a little bit rough. Oh, by the
Yeah.
way, totally unrelated, but the most fun build I've tried, and like I'm
Ooh.
just tanking my LP right now because I'm trying like, oh, that's nice, RE2. I'm trying just like everything my brain can think of in a game. I'm not really trying to rank up right now, but I played a 6 Blade Master game with Bard as one of the Blade Masters yesterday, and it was so bad, but it was hilariously entertaining to watch the Meep generation. I did get a lot of XP from it. It's worth it. It's worth it for the memes.
You should have put a YouTube video about it. Would have been pretty
I
funny.
should have. Yeah, my bad. I'm not thinking about content enough.
Well, I mean, you still got your show at least. Oh my goodness, Kiyoon found an early cast with a death cap. He does have the Warmogs as well, which is he looks like Kiyoon has some pretty suboptimal items, and he gets the 3rd Nico instead of another item. So it looks like Kiyoon, he's on that losing streak. He has 3 Nico's help. When is he going to roll down is more of my question.
Yeah, you got to do something soon.
Is this just going to be a fast 8th here for Kiyoon?
Very well might be. I mean, if you don't, if you end up sub 60 going in infiltrators, that is a really rough position to be in the game.
I mean, he's already in the 40s. He might be.
Oh, you're right. I was looking at Nature's 20s. HP. Yeah, no, he needs to do something now. that is super rough.
Yeah, and you know he still can easily crack into the top 4 in this game if he's able to spike whatever he's looking. Excuse me, whatever he's looking for. But right now, seems like he's struggling.
That's right. Well, looks like it's going to be you need with the brawler build here.
Yeah, he's got
brawler blaster rather.
He's used his Nikos, so you can see that he's hard committed to it. It looks like he's actually committing more towards a Rebels composition based off his the units on his bench. Rebels still totally viable. You end up having Jinx play more of a support role instead of a carry because you really want to prioritize Gangplank. But it's a little bit dicey right now with Rebels because the prevalence of Mystics makes Gangplank a lot worse, and your alternative of like building Aurelion Soul as a carry is not necessarily as good either. So you do tend to drop off a lot in the late game unless you can get the best in slot items or close to it to be competitive.
Yeah, I think that's why you see something like Slash Bros coming back a little bit as far as Rebels compositions goes with the Yasuo Master Yi carry, because then you can get the Rebels buffs and kind of bypass your vulnerability to Mystic because Yi and Yasuo are in there just kind of cutting people up. So that was interesting. I haven't seen a lot of that yet myself, but I do know a lot of people out there are spamming Slash Bros and finding success with it.
Yeah, I think that in a ideal setup, like everyone gets like their best items and they can get their usual power spikes, that the top composition is 6 Blade Masters right now, just because they are so good when you get Zed, that Blade of the Ruin King.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Kiyoon going with a Nico on the Riven to get Riven 2. He needs to stop bleeding, trying to get his death cap onto the Riven in time. Doesn't have GA for the Riven either.
Yeah, at least he's got one part of it. So you've got a chance to pick it up.
Yeah.
But it is a little bit rough. Looks like he should win this round, though.
Yeah, if he doesn't win, this is doomed. Because he rolled down at 7. He's a level above everybody else. He 2-starred a tier 4 unit. So if he's still unable to win, I think I wouldn't blame Kiyoon for giving up on the game.
I think Riven is just so strong with the death cap because it's a bigger shield. It's more damage. That the Riven 2 will keep him alive for now. She's basically like the big band-aid on this board.
Yeah. So Riven Sorcerer is a composition that is actually more popular than I thought, largely because I think people like playing Sorcerer comps and people love Riven. She's one of the most popular League of
I
Legends
think it's
champions.
probably the best sort comp there is right now, honestly. I really like looking at the different sort comps. I think the Riven stuff is probably the best version of it early on. That could change tomorrow, but right now it's looking like if you're going to play Sorks, this is probably the most stable way to go.
Yeah, that's interesting because I feel the opposite.
Really?
But of course, it really depends. Like you, I'm not necessarily playing. I'm playing against Masters players, but I'm at like Diamond 1, so it's not like
Sure.
super high level. But from my experience, it feels like the Sorcerer games live and die by your 2 stars, like Victor and Riven. But that being
Mhm.
said, on Nicoverse, it might make more sense because you do have those Nicos to help shape that up.
Oh yeah, for
So
sure. I think on Nicoverse it definitely does work a bit better because it's like I was saying last game where Riven 1 is just like nothing basically, whereas Riven 2 is an insane carry.
right,
So
right,
on a Nicoverse, you can just bypass even needing to worry about the Riven 1 phase, which you really shouldn't be in at all if you're doing this. Um,
yeah.
and just make a good comp. Yeah. There's such a big difference between Riven 1 and 2 right now.
Yeah, it's completely fair. Oh my
Oh,
goodness, and he
huh.
finds the best, and he has the QSS for the Riven. That is what may be considered the
Yeah.
actual best in slot items here for Riven.
Oh yeah, that's huge. And I like the Zerot portal on Malphite as well. I think that's solid.
Yeah, the big downside is he doesn't have any Victor items, and Victor is kind of important because he is your big AOE. Part of the reason why people feel like you don't need to play Gangplank oriented builds is because you do have widespread AOE now through
Right.
Victor, who sprays the entire line twice. So right now, Kiyoon, he's not even jamming his Nikos because Victor 2 with no items probably doesn't do nearly as much. And he's really hoping basically that it's kind of an inverse proportion. He wants his backline to stall for as long as his solo frontliner Riven can get him there. But yeah, you can even see that
Mm,
he gets the Riven 2. He has like what feels like an ideal setup, but he's still kind of getting bopped. And I personally don't know if I have a lot of faith in this build because I
mhm.
get a lot of results similar to that where I'm like, okay, I just power spiked. I should be okay, but yet I'm not okay. I'm dead.
Yeah, I think it's part of what you mentioned earlier, where you need a lot of 2 stars to really make it work. Like Riven 2 is great, but if Riven 2 is literally the only thing you have that's good on your board, then you're still gonna run into trouble. Because look at this, like Zoe 1, Cinder 1, Gnar 1. The only other 2 stars are Malphite and TF. So it's you need a stronger backline than this. Riven alone will not carry you. She's good, as you can see, but you need more. I like just tossing in the Urgot because, why not? Maybe you can get lucky and eat somebody. It's a desperation move. It's looking pretty rough for Kiyoon either way. The big thing that wrecks Riven right now is Last Whisper. And that Jinx with Last Whisper and Red Buff was like tailor made to destroy the Riven. But yeah, it doesn't look like this one's going to work out.
Oh, okay. One of the biggest problems that he didn't have 6 sorcerer. Now he does. He found an Annie, found an Ari.
Yeah.
Now he has to roll down. He finds another Wukong. He has to kind of use his Nico here as well because he doesn't want to die.
If he finds a Wukong too, he can put that in instead of the Malphite. That would be good.
Another Gnar.
He doesn't find it. Yeah. Yeah, I guess you just put it in anyway. Okay, yeah, using Nico's. Yeah, I think this will be good. This gives him Chrono. It gives him a stronger front line. This is the best build he can build right now.
Yeah, Wukong is not ideal unless you're necessarily playing the Poppy version. You can take out TF and play Xerath, but he's not anywhere close to Xerath. And again, part
Mhm.
of the issue is it seems like Kiyoon got the worst of both ends here. Usually, when you get like a Nico, you can jam and get a life lead, but he doesn't have that. And then on the opposite side, it seemed
Yeah,
like he's also lacking on his items, and he would get 2 or 3 components by the end of the stage, but he might not survive that long. So it's kind of
yeah,
like a situation where Kiyoon lost on both fronts.
yeah. With all the 1 stars he had going into this too, it seems like either this was a late transition into this, where he maybe found like a victory and he's like, oh, maybe I can go this, or he
Mhm.
found that Riven. Or he just got really unlucky and just simply didn't hit the 2 stars that you normally hit throughout the mid game. But yeah, there's just no way unless he hits like all the 2 stars here. There's just no way that this is gonna carry him anywhere close to a top 4. And honestly, there's a big drop off between 5th and 6th right now anyway. So it's he would have such a long way to go to break in anyway.
Oh, Xerath, that's pretty significant.
Yeah, it can help. It's a little bit tricky because you're going to be giving up some synergy by putting it in. He's got the John as well. All right.
Yeah, I like this. Victor frontline, little sketch, but overall, I think the Xerath really need to go in. It actually gives him some kind of AoE splash that might be meaningful. Finds another Xerath. He can go ahead and sell it and make it with Nico too.
Yeah.
Too slow. He didn't react fast enough.
Oh.
Okay, well, hopefully that doesn't end up becoming the game-ending loss. You do only take a few points of damage on this stage, but if he loses really badly, he's dead.
Yeah, he's got 9 HP. This Riven is pretty strong, though. And the Xerath, all right, Xerath actually got the damage done. Interesting.
Oh, he's not going to buy Xerath.
Wow.
He unlocked and bought it.
Yeah.
It's annoying because there's also a Syndra there, so you can kind of like convince yourself that locking might be the play, but I think he needs another peer and another chance to find that natural Xerath.
Yeah. I don't think it's a bad idea to start the Xerath with the Nikos right now, though. You need something to carry it besides just the Riven.
Another Ari. Just too poor. The big problem here with Kiyoon, he was forced to roll down. He just feels so poor.
Yeah, I really am curious about the early game, how he ended up in this situation. Because it's bizarre that you would be in a situation where you've got this comp, but like just no 2 stars like he did. He's caught up a lot actually in the last couple rounds. We'll see how he can do against Crvor here. Nice infiltrator Soraka. Let's go.
Yeah, what the heck? Banana in the face. Here comes a Xerath. The Janna is pretty significant, and the Riven's doing a good job stalling the mech. Victor's stunned the back as well. I think he might be able to do this.
I mean, those Riven shields have to. He cannot let that shield drop. Oh, maybe. I mean, with the death cap, he just gets such an enormous shield. One more ult. There we go. Yeah, he should win this now. Yep.
Yeah. Wow. And the issue with Riven a lot of times is where is she going to direct her third cast? Because for people who are familiar with her on Summoner's Rift, her third cast is very similar to her decisive ult ability that just shoots out an AoE wave.
Right.
But the thing is, she will target and kind of like have this twisted fate effect where sometimes she just randomly turns around and ults like the wrong person. The cone barely hits anybody.
Yeah, I think it's her Q. I think it's her Q in League of Legends. It's her broken wings, I think is what it's called.
Yeah, that sounds right.
It's been a long time. I used to play a little bit of Riven, but not much. Yeah,
but the effect itself is like it sends like this giant wave and does massive AoE. So if you can get that targeted in the right spot, it's great. But I mean, she also moves a lot, right? Because like her Q in League of Legends or Summoner's Rift, she ends up making movements, and so you can't exactly predict how it's going to go. And it's scary to say the least.
Yeah. Trying to find that Syndra 2. He doesn't find it though.
Needs another Victor. One more Victor is huge. Finds Ari too. Another Victor, but he's too poor.
Oh man.
Tash's Hex Tech perhaps. Hex Tech is kind of useless on Janna, to be honest. Yeah, he ends up putting on the Xerath. That's annoying.
That's better, yeah. Going up against DarkHydra, who is playing some snipers, cybernetics, it looks like.
Yeah, the Janna didn't get her ability off, but the Xerath still managed to cast a few times before he died, and now the Riven can go in, so Kiyoon trying to make that comeback. He's on a win streak while Nature's falls into 8th place.
Yeah, this is a big thing about why people are using the Riven as like the tank in this comp, because when you hit that 2 stars with good items like this, she gets such a massive shield that she can just kind of bounce around and survive stuff. It's very cool.
Yeah. I'm still kind of impressed that Kiyoon's been able to survive this long, but the gravy train may end. Starting around 5-2 is when other compositions that want to hit 9 can go for that fast 9. So everyone's getting increasingly stronger, and Kiyoon just sort of topped out. He hit Victor 2. He can't really get that much stronger outside of Janna and Annie 2, which are both unlikely from this point.
it's going to be items at this point that are going to be what makes him stronger. If he can get stronger.
Oh, no.
Back to just the Riven again. It's always the Riven and like a few broken other champions at the end of the day. And I don't mean broken strong. I mean broken as in like about to die. But yeah, he came online, man. He's pulling it out of the fire at the very last moment.
Oh,
He's been on one life for so long, and yeah, that Annie too is huge. We talked earlier about all the buffs Annie got. She does a lot of damage now. She gets a big shield now. She is a legit scary frontliner, which is awesome. And so now that he hit the 2-star, I'm feeling a bit better. He's still one life away from death, but he's got at least a fighting chance now.
Yeah, for me, it's just the fact that Zerat Portal now has more stats and he survives just a little bit longer. So, like, that to me is probably the biggest win. But he's going up against what many consider to be the best comp in the game, Mystic Vanguards with ideal Cassiopeia items. And the Xerath isn't targeting a Cass in the back. That Janet ult is huge, though, and it pops up and gives Riven time to chop down the enemy.
Well, if Riven is able to hit this Cassiopeia, which it looks like she is, yep, that'll do it. And that was a ghost, but still, he lives.
All right. So now we get another look at an item. Ooh, a blue buff. That might be big for the... Oh, we can find a
Star Guardian bangle, though.
The chalice,
chalice, yeah.
Oh, no, you didn't. Sphinx, how dare you? How could you do that? Oh,
there's so many good items for him, though. He grabs a blue buff. I think Ludens is actually really strong. He is circling the Shojins. Yeah, Chalice is great right now. I still, there's still a lot of experimentation that needs to be done with Chalice, but it seems like an item that can be very strong.
There were a lot of items here on this carousel. There was the Shojin that was being highlighted by Kiyoon. There's a Star Guardian spat that you can also put in on Victor, and then maybe you can replace, with something else more meaningful. But the Chalice of Power is particularly very good on Janna in the Star Guardian comps. So, I'm a little sad for Kiyoon, but at the same time, looking at Sphinx, this is this is looking pretty intimidating of a board.
Oh, he's putting it to good use on this Cassiopeia for sure. Now, we'll mention too, Nature's actually dropped out in 8th, so it looks like it's just going to be a rough tournament for him.
Yeah, it looks like I think with that 8th, Nature's may have eliminated himself from any possibility of getting top 8, but we'll let you know based off of what ends up happening.
Yeah,
looks like he's going up against Crvor with that Infiltrator 2-star Soraka. He's committed.
Hey, you get the buff, I guess. That's a nice thing about it. Man, this Cassiopeia is doing so much damage.
Yeah, and Lulu survived for a long time. That big burst.
Oh my God, Annie OP, I'm telling you. Dude, like, get ready for the Annie carry builds. They are coming. I'm saying it right now.
Kiyoon is out in 7th place, but he held on valiantly. Almost made that comeback.
Yeah, it was close.
If he was able to survive, he might have been able to sneak maybe even to a top 4 just for a couple more rounds. But it's tough. We kind of talked about how that build, kind of lives and dies by their 2-star. And even though he got the 2-star, he actually didn't have the items for the Xerath or the Victor, and that's a really bad situation.
When you're down to 9 HP, you're on your last life. It's something as simple as like a Zephyr hitting the wrong person that you don't expect in the lobby this wide, and you're just gone, right? So Kiyoon out. We will see if Sphinx can break into the top 4 here.
This is a scary Echo, though. 2-star with static shift. He applies his on-hit. Thresh is pulling mid-Echo ult. This is getting kind of weird, but the most important thing is that Vayne is safe in the back right now, finally getting hit by that Wukong. Can the Vayne take down enough before she dies here?
Doesn't seem like it. The Lulu 2 is going to be such a big deal for Sphinx as this game goes into the late game. DarkHydra on his last life now. But yeah, just having the Lulu 2 early, and you could pick up another one, is just so big. And another Deathblade.
Yeah.
Double funny. Deathblade Lulu. Let's go.
Yeah, and I think that you really want to get to 9 and play Thresh. That does seem to be the winning combination for Vanguard Mystic. But part of the issue with Sphinx is that he's too poor right now. So even if he was going to be aggressive with his eco and sell the Soraka, I don't think he'd be able to get there next turn. So he's basically in a situation where he hopes that he can last for 2 rounds, 1 or 2 rounds, hit 9, pick up Thresh, and then utilize his bench accordingly.
It's certainly possible. he's thinking about the double Deathblade Lulu. That's hilarious. But he's thinking about it. I think even after this round, you might be able to go for it, right? But
Yeah.
but if he doesn't find the Thresh, then it gets a bit more tricky.
Yeah, that's why he's
Gunmay,
holding it
meanwhile,
for
in
River.
number 1 in this lobby, actually.
Yeah, maybe we can check out Gunmay in a sec here. But one thing to consider is that, wow, he's going to give the Karma buff to Lulu, which is funny because she has Deathblade.
Yeah.
This could be the last fight. If he's able to survive, he does keep that Riven, so maybe he can just put it in for that Chrono synergy, which isn't irrelevant. And now that Lulu, she's going to have to carry alongside Cass, but it looks like Crvor's Victor is getting some real good splash. That's the 3rd hit. Big damage.
So
how much damage is this?
Not quite enough. So close. I really like what Crvor is doing right now. So it's a very different mech build than we saw last time. He's gone for 4 infiltrators with the infiltrator spat this time, but he's still got Mystic, and I believe he's got sorcerer, with Victor as well. So or at least he'll be able to pick up Mystic when he picks up a second one. I'm not sure if he had another one besides Soraka, but either way, this is what I'm really liking about the early things I'm seeing with mech in this set, is that there are different mech builds you can pursue, which is going to make a player like Crvor with all this mech experience possibly very scary going forward in the tournament.
Yeah, he is playing the 4 infiltrator version, which seems to be less good. Oh no, his Lulu got knocked up. Gunmay also has Jinx very well protected, an entire band stalling. Wukong can't even get to the Jinx. Sphinx is running because he is feeling pessimistic about his chances here.
Yep, another Blitzcrank grab brings the Cassiopeia in, and I don't think AD Lulu is going to be able to do enough damage to carry here. No, not quite enough. Sphinx exiting, and let's get out 5th. Oh, barely missing the cut.
Yeah, but he also outlasted Kiting, who was alive in that round as well. So very narrow margins, it looks like, for our players. As Kiting got to 10 units with Cybers and still lost in 6th play. That's got to feel frustrating.
Yeah, well, we will swap over to somebody else to see what they'll be doing soon.
I believe so. In the meantime,
there we go. Over to Gunmay. Number 1 in the lobby right now. Ooh, and he found the Thresh. So he'll be able to pull in that Urgot. Could pull in the Janna as well if he decides to do that. If the round goes a bit longer.
Yeah.
Or just not get any pulls.
One thing that I'm really noticing, that game.
Oh my gosh, that Ace-ul.
So sick. Unid has Rebels down, and we're kind of talking about how it's a really strong build. The one thing you have to worry about is the Vanguard Mystics. All the Vanguard Mystic players are dead. So Unid looks like he's in a good position to maybe get first. Everybody's at 1 hit or 1 life, except for Crvor might survive 1 loss here.
So we should talk about Luden's Echo. That item has been changed to where it just always does 200 damage when it bounces. And I think it's going to become a very strong item. I think it's a little bit underutilized right now in the first week, but it gives you mana, it gives you AP. The bounce is a lot stronger than it was before. So I'm kind of starting to wonder if we're going to see Ludens come up a bit.
Yeah, stacking Ludens has been a thing in TFT history. I think right now, it's just that those are 2 premium components that you would rather use for a Morello and a blue buff. But if you do have to make Ludens, I don't think you're that upset about it. It's like a nice silver medal, so to speak, if you can't.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's not going to be like a top S tier item, but I think it's definitely better now than it was before the mid-set patch.
Yeah. One thing that I'm really appreciating out of Gunmay is that he's kind of playing a dynamic, fluid build. He's playing 4 Chrono, Brawler Blaster featuring Astros as a way to protect his Jinx, because Gnar's going to knock everybody out. Teemo will stall with the Shrooms. It's a very interesting take on it, but it doesn't look like he's able to keep Jinx alive. Oh, but Unid ends up winning against Crvor, but he doesn't end up winning in time and dealing enough damage, so Gunmay is out in 3rd place.
Wow. So from 1st down to 3rd, I like you mentioned, the adaptation on the comp, going for a little bit of Chrono. But Crvor, he's pretty happy, man, because he has a chance to take another 1st place here. He's at least locked in 2nd. And you can see he is so pumped right now. He's definitely one of the most, I would say, emotive players we've got in the tournament.
Oh yeah, he's hyped. He's hyped. Yeah. And how can you not be for him? Because he's the one kind of putting this comp on the map. Other players tripping over each other, contesting each other, Jinxes and Cassiopeias and Star Guardian sorcerers. Meanwhile, he just kind of plays mech.
He's
But
like, man, I'm going.
this is a tough one to beat. I think Crvor might not be able to beat Rebels. Because one of his secondary carries is a Soraka with an infiltrator spat. So
Hey,
I'm
he's
not feeling
bringing
optimistic
that.
about it.
I love that he's using it to bring. He's going to lose for sure, but I love that he's using the Soraka to bring the Frozen Heart into the back line. It's really cool, and it got him second, which is awesome. But Unid is going to take number one.
Yeah, you need with the Rebels build, French players just doing really well this week so far. And the Rebels build we were talking about has really good top end power. But what we were talking about in that mid late game was the one build you have to be careful about is Mystic Vanguard, and they all died. So I was thinking Unid had clear skies to win from that point on because his hardest matchup had been eliminated.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see Mystic Vanguard be sort of a middling comp in the first two games as we check out our results from the first two games. Crvor on top, of course, after a first and a second. But I wonder if we're sort of giving everyone a preview of like a week from now on the ladder, basically, where Vanguard Mystic is not as threatening as it was originally because people are figuring it out. And when you have a new meta like this, a lot of times the comps that seem OP and they seem really, really strong are just that way because comparatively they have been figured out at a higher degree than other compositions have. And so they're just going to be more polished and more strong right now, but that may not necessarily continue as other comps are developed.
Yeah, that's right. So overall, I'm really pleased to see the French players do really well. I was just actually finishing casting a weekend where French players once again dominated games of variance. So
True.
Not surprising there, but that does enter the halfway point. I wonder if some players who've been sticking to certain strategies will start adapting a little bit, or are they going to stick to their current line where they've been kind of committing to a comp and trying to play that as their main strategy.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Quick shout out to juke.gg !GSS in chat. Will take you to a place where you can see all the player POVs if you want to go watch one player in particular. They have a style you like, you can go check that out. And you've got time because we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, the next two games of the day, first day of matches on 3.5. It's been awesome. You don't want to go anywhere. We'll see you in a few. Welcome back to Giant Slayer series. Two more games to go, and it's been a very interesting day so far. We knew it was going to be Frodan because we're playing our first games on the new patch, on the mid-set patch, patch 3.5, whatever you want to call it. But it's been cool. I think the biggest surprise is just how well Crvor has been able to do with his mech build so far.
Yeah, and he's been doing it really well and effectively getting first and second. And it's a pleasant surprise given that
Yeah,
earlier last week, Crvor had announced that he's effectively retiring from competing or playing TFT. That he was looking for a consulting job because he misses working in a professional environment. And
sure.
that while TFT was a really rewarding experience for a year, that he wants to transition to the new, he wants to pivot to a new thing in life right now, which we
Sometimes
wish
you
him
need
the
to
best
do
of
those
luck.
life pivots too. Yeah.
Right. And we appreciate that he's playing out the tournament here, but I don't expect him to necessarily go beyond that. But I mean, what a last hurrah it would be, right? For his final week, comes in, has a lot of fun, does well, and then rides off to the sunset with a victory.
Yeah, and I feel like it's a very different feeling too with the results he had last week, with the results he's having this week as well. That can kind of change your opinion on how things are going. He's currently in seventh because of the points he's acquired today. So making a solid run towards maybe locking in a top 8 spot. Now, the thing is last season it seemed like 63, 64. The early 60s was kind of the cutoff period to make it into the cutoff score, I should say, to make it into the top 8. So he's going to have another extremely strong 2 games like he just did to put himself in that position. But if the first 2 games was any indication, it's certainly possible.
Yeah, and some big movement that's happening as a result. Now he moves into that top 8 spot, and while Kiyoon has that comfortable lead, it's pretty much up in the air for anybody that's still yet to crack 50 points or around that low 50 range.
Right.
We'll see the other half of the players compete tomorrow. So players like Sunny Liu and Higa, who are very low in the standing and kind of need a dramatic comeback week.
Mhm.
We'll see them play tomorrow and see what they got.
Yeah, that's right. Other players like Gunmay, for instance, looking pretty solidly like a near lock for top 8. I think he was third in the standings right now, pretty close to 60. So he should be able to get there, unless he has a couple like really, really bad games. But I think we're in for a pretty solid top 8. Should be good.
Yeah, that's right. So, one thing that we haven't really seen today is the dominance of Mystic Vanguards. They've been okay, some getting to the top 4, but
Yeah.
for the most part, haven't been able to have that dominant of a performance. We saw like Cybernetics potentially do decently well too, but they also have only been cracking the top 3. It seems like Rebels and the Mech Sorcerer created a dynamic that wasn't really expected for what we were going to see today. And let's see if that happens in lobby number 3.
It's cool. We're going to a super dense galaxy, and it's kind of like I was saying, where the Vanguard Mystic is very strong right now because it is a legitimately strong comp, but also because it's just one of the comps that was the most obvious, and people figured it out and polished it a little bit sooner than some of the other comps. And so the comparative strength in the end might be greater than the actual strength for Vanguard Mystic, and we might see it turn into a solid, but not auto lobby winning comp like a lot of people were saying it looked like in the first couple days of 3.5.
Yeah, and I think that this early opening for the items on the carousel are pretty intriguing since it seems people pretty much have spread out. You need starting rod, for example. That's not something that you see people prioritize a lot, but it's still very useful.
Yeah.
If he finds like Morel Nomicon, for example, or sometimes we saw people jamming an early locket and playing that inside.
Yeah, you've got Ionic Spark as an option as well. Death Cap if you end up going for some sort of Riven build. So can build in a decent amount of good things.
Yeah,
The tier as well, maybe kind of pushing him in more of an AP direction early on too. We'll see.
yeah, that's right. So overall, an okay opening, kind of mediocre because he has the 3 vanguards.
Yeah.
3 vanguards makes you immediately think, can I play 4 vanguards of some kind? But it largely depends if you can find that early Nautilus as well. Caitlyn's also a great item holder, so you can go ahead and like stack her with pretty much anything, and you can like justify holding on to that for a while.
Mm-hmm.
On
Finds a
Super
couple
Dense
rebels.
Galaxies, do you prefer any specific compositions though?
I did before the patch, sure, but now I have no idea. I don't think I've played. I think I maybe played one super dense galaxy so far, and I think I probably just went snipers because I just have been playing more snipers than anything right now because I just enjoy it. But no, I don't really. I haven't played enough games yet on super dense and 3.5 to have a preference. How about you?
Gotcha. I think cybernetics is even stronger than it normally is, largely because you're able to squeeze in a bunch of synergies off of that core six tree. So you can play like a lot of times when you're playing cybernetics at the top end, people really want to keep Wukong in, but they like really need to be
Mhm.
playing Thresh and a bunch of other stuff. You can put them all. You can play Kate for the snipers, you can play Wukong for the vanguards and the frontline CC, and you can play of course Thresh to pull in the Urgots.
Yeah,
Not to mention that the force of nature is like an activator for cybernetic. You can just go ahead and put it on like a Fiora or like a Leona and still get major stats while you can focus your items on Vayne and Irelia.
very true. Are you saying that's your preference then?
I would say that that's like my initial inclination. So whenever I am playing Super Dance, I try to look for cybernetics.
Mhm.
Obviously, you can't get it every single time, but it's something
Yeah.
worth thinking about.
Well, you need right now getting the Brawler Rebel start. So a strong set of synergies, which it looks like we'll be able to get him at least one early win here. Not
Yeah.
dedicating any items yet, though, really.
Rebels does an early synergy package is pretty viable just to kind of play and transition to a few different things
Yeah.
because you have Ziggs, who is a caster item holder, so you can give him blue buff, you can give him Morello, Death Cap, etc. Zed is a fantastic damage carry item holder, so you can give him Infinity Edge, Runane's
Mhm.
Hurricane, Last Whisper, and then you can give Malphite tank items. So you can give him GA, Bramble Vest, Ionic Spark, etc. So
Right.
it's really interesting, like triumphant that ends up working really well a lot of the time. So Rebels might be replacing my preferred opening because I usually
Ooh.
like to play Chrono Brawler of some kind or like Chrono
Mhm.
Vanguard, but Rebels is like a really nice second place, a very close second place of my preferred opening.
Rebels is kind of nice right now too because it's generally a little bit less contested than Vanguards and Chronos because everybody's looking for those early snipers. Everybody's looking for those early Vanguards to go Vanguard Mystic. So it's nice to play something that's a little bit less contested as well.
Yeah, it's interesting that Uni is kind of prioritizing that early game Ludens, kind of what you were talking about. It seems like he's trying to go for a win streak to start off the game. He leveled early. He's not picking up a bunch of vanguards. He found another Yasuo, so it looks like he is gearing up for a Rebels push once more, which was the key to his victory last game. Having that stacked Ace even at 1 star was still
Right.
very valuable for most of the game.
Well, I do think too that Ludens is best in the early game because that's where the 200 damage becomes the most important. It doesn't the damage from the Ludens bounce doesn't scale with Star anymore. It's just static, and 200 is a lot early on, especially on a fast casting champion like Ziggs too. Ziggs also, I mean,
Ziggs, TOO.
yes. Although it might be a Ziggs 2 soon. TWOTOO.
Nice. So yeah, like that Luden's actually doing pretty good work, and now that Yasuo gets the 2 star, kind of helping act as a impromptu frontliner. I might have to consider if I want to jam Ludens a little bit more in the early game here. Sometimes I'm always stuck, like if I have like a rod, a sword, and a tier, like an all offensive opening. I'm
Hmm.
kind of curious what I should be doing. Maybe just jamming Ludens looks totally fine.
I had a weird game yesterday where I ended up putting it on Cassiopeia because I just didn't have any other options really at the time. And then she started using it, and I was like, "Oh, wait, this actually seems really strong." And since then, my opinion about Ludens has changed a lot, and I think it's a solid item. It's better in 3.5 than it was in 3.0 for sure.
Yeah, I think Cass is one of the best users of that because she has such a low mana pool. So does Aurelion Soul. I think what
Yep.
Cass's mana pool is like what 25. That's why blue buff is so powerful on her.
Yeah,
So
it's super low.
that makes a lot of sense. Just putting Ludens on Cass and going from there. Hopping on with Nature's, he's got a Infinity Edge Poppy. And he has the like the vanguards and the Chronos as sniper. So I think he's setting himself up to potentially play some kind of sniper composition. Does end up going for a bow as well, which means that he's going to be looking to see if he can combine that to make either Last Whisper or Rune's Hurricane.
Yeah. Who do you think is the best user of Rageblade right now besides Xerath? Like out of the new champions?
Rageblade?
Yeah.
That's a good question considering that we don't have Kale anymore.
Right.
And
Something I've been thinking about.
I think Rageblade probably could be justified on people like Teemo or Jinx. Those are two like reasonable targets that you can go for. But that's a good
Vayne
question.
and Zed, maybe.
Oh, Master E. Master E.
Oh yeah, for sure.
The Master E really needs the Master E carry builds really need Rageblade for sure.
Right. What about Zed and Vayne? Seems like they could be pretty good Rageblade holders as well, especially if you're going for like the 6-Blade Master Zed comp. Because both Zed and Vayne benefit from getting more activations of their ability via attack speed.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's the best Vayne item, but Vayne totally could use Rageblade for sure.
Yeah. Well, on board with Natures now, as we mentioned earlier, it's so awkward to have that Infinity Edge on Poppy, but you need the front line right now, so you don't really have much of a choice.
Yeah, I think the thing about what Nature seems to be doing is it seems like he's prioritizing loose streaking. He's been doing that pretty consistently throughout these 3 games. I wonder if that's a choice, though, that he's making going into it versus simply saying, I don't have faith in my board. I'm not exactly sure if I can even stabilize in this early game. So I'm just going to purposely lose from here because this, like you said, it wasn't really like the best board that he could play. Or I guess even if it was, he could have leveled and try to go to level 5 and contest. But he's very much okay with losing. Does have a Jarvan 2 opportunity. Could be a transition point since he can play Jarvan in the front, transfer that IE onto someone else instead. But Natures is playing pretty open still, I think, and he wants to once more see what he's going to get off the PV rounds before he commits.
One of the things that we haven't seen anyone try yet, but has been around a little bit, is actually a Shredder. He just sold the Xayah, but it seems like Shredder may be like an okay, like 2nd-tier comp right now. I haven't seen it tried that much, but I've seen a few people get wins with it.
Yeah, I think that, like most things, that's like around bottom of tier 2, tier 3. I consider Shredder to be pretty poor right now. But I do think that you do have opportunities to high roll, like if you get an ungodly amount of Xayahs early game, like 7 Xayahs by like.
I don't think it's the worst thing ever to go for. It's definitely not the best thing ever, but it may not be the worst thing too.
It's kind of like in that like forced space pirate tier. Like I think that competition can win a lot of games, but you have to like omega high roll, and your opponent and your lobby texture has to look a specific way. Like there can't be that many vanguards, or if you do, you have to have like Last Whisper and like the ideal items for Xayah.
Right.
And then even then, you still might not win. So let me tell you something. I had what I felt like the perfect Xayah items. I had Rune's Hurricane, Deathblade, and Last Whisper.
All right.
I had 5 3-star units: Shen, Xayah, Kate, Jarvan, and Fiora. I had almost all of them itemized because of Treasure Trove, and I still ended up getting like 5th. And like I just couldn't win. I don't know. It was really hard. All the Vanguard Mystic I couldn't shoot through, and there's just so much CC that I couldn't do it. Maybe my mistake was not giving a item to Xayah to be defensive, but still felt like I wasn't even killing a few units. I was losing by like 7 or 8 units at the late game.
Yeah, I think that's the thing is that you really need to, if you have like a single target carry in your comp right now, you really need to have at least one defensive item. Otherwise, like you mentioned, with all the crowd control that's been introduced in the game, you're gonna get wrecked. That is interesting though, because having that many 3-stars, you think you could still survive through some of that crowd control.
Yeah, I personally believe that it's not very strong right now, but maybe because I'm playing with old information and there's got to be some new ways to go about it. It's kind of like what you're saying. Maybe people will figure out the ideal rolling strategies and the itemization as the set develop.
I wonder. It would be, because it was a neat comp to a certain extent, but so we'll see. And again, it's just so early in the meta as well. to really be able to tell what is truly going to be the strong stuff yet.
Sure, early days.
Yeah.
So it looks like Nature's is committed to losing streak. He lost to the other last place player in the lobby, Kiting, who was playing the sorcerers. Kiting also kind of made his name off of, or at least the most notable achievement that he had with getting ranked #1 on the server
Yeah.
was from his time spamming Star Garden sorcerers when Syndra was really, really busted. So maybe he too has an affinity for Star Guardian. That's why he might be jamming it, or he might legitimately think it's really good to play.
Yeah, I wonder. I'm eager to see what he comes up with it. Because it just, like I said, it just seems like there's something there. But Riven seems like an obvious way to kind of capitalize on sorcerers right now, but it just seems like there should be something better out there. And maybe there's not. Maybe sorcerers are just in for another period of kind of weak results in TFT. But we'll see. It seems like there should be something there, though.
Yeah, and I'm sure Nature thinks the same thing right now about his composition. He's at 42 life. Super Dense Galaxy,
Yeah.
that can give you a lot of headaches if you're trying to lose streak, which is why it's generally not recommended. This is looking like a pretty bad opening start here for Nature's. Looks like he wants to go for snipers because he has that Ash, he
Yep.
has the Morello and the Infinity Edge. But this is looking bad for him so far, and he does have that spat, but unless he puts it to good use, he's going to be struggling. You can't take too much damage here on Super Dex Galaxy.
Right. He's trying to use the Bard as well to, make up a little bit of XP ground at least without having to spend the gold, but he's going to lose so much HP by doing this. Meanwhile, on board with Kitingishard, 4 sorcerer right now, 3 Vanguard.
Yeah.
And he does have Annie up in the front line, which I think we're going to probably see a lot. Interesting.
Yeah, I agree with this 4 Vanguard over the Annie here because I don't think the 4 Sorcerer is super important right now. He doesn't even have an RE2, so it's not like his Sorcerer's going to hit really hard.
Yeah,
The
I
longer he
agree.
can stall, the more chances he can give for Ari to use her ability, which the Morello Nomicon is the true carry of the build. It's not a champion.
Well, that's the thing, is that if you don't have the 2 stars for the sorcerers, then yeah, there's not much point to bank on the synergy because they're just not going to be doing a lot.
Yeah. For kiting, though, one of the more interesting things that I've been seeing is people giving the Star Guardian carries, or rather just any mage carry, giving them a bow weapon to use. And I've been seeing people, for example, play Giant Slayer on Victor, and it ends up working out really well because it does end up, like, if you do have like compositions that use Soraka and a bunch of tanky stuff, then you will get the opportunity to shred down their health over time. So that bow does look a little bit unusual, but if he ends up picking up sword, don't be super surprised if you see some people itemize Giant Slayer onto some of these casts.
Yeah, people are figuring out too towards the end of the first half of set 3 that certain AD items and especially certain attack speed items work pretty well on sorcerers because it does make them cast faster. If you're attacking faster, you're building mana faster, you're casting faster, right? So there is that. But like you said, now with the changes to Giant Slayer, especially, there's a reason to build a little bit more AD sometimes on your Sorks.
Yeah, it's the fact that Giant Slayer's bonus health, it's able to deal a huge percentage of damage the longer the fight goes on. That's probably your main win condition against Vanguard Mystics because you
Yeah.
can't really reliably cut down people through the abilities because they have 4 Mystics up, and look how much magic resist they are. This is the 3rd cast here from Syndra, and it's still not able to kill a 1-star unit. Granted, Syndra
Well,
doesn't have any items on her, and she's a 1-star unit herself, but she's
yeah.
supposed to be able to kill things. But with so many Mystic buffs out there, your best way to actually cut them down sometimes is through attack speed items.
Yeah. I mean, 1-star Syndra is basically just like, she's like nothing pretty much because she'll cast really slowly. And then when she does cast, she just doesn't do enough damage. So yeah, maybe when he gets 2 stars out there, that'll be something. I was playing around a little bit with the Syndra carry because she did get a buff actually in the patch. She is stronger now than she was, but it just comes down to the Mystic stuff like you mentioned, but also just that single target damage is not quite as strong. And I am saying that with the realization that if she has extra orbs that are still in flight when she's already killed someone, they will go to a new target. So she is even better at that. but it just still seems like she's just not strong enough as an individual character to be carry.
Yeah.
Sadly.
So with that, looks like Cassiopeia does get picked up, and he can finally make that transition to Vanguard Mystics.
Yep.
He still doesn't have any item that he can complete with that bow, but he can go ahead and hold on to it for now.
Yeah, he's got a bard too as well, so he's going to be able to start building up XP a little bit quicker.
Oh yeah, very quick. Sometimes for fun in the early game, if I don't have an item holder for blue buff, I just slap blue buff on bard, and I get 6-7 meeps in a round.
I mean, hey, if you end up getting like 20 XP over the course of a few rounds from bard, that's huge. That's a lot of money actually.
Yeah, the only problem is that right now I don't think is the time to play bard very much.
No, I agree with you on that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that you want to get the 4 mystics, and that's the only reason why he's keeping bard. Also, it seems like he's being bombarded with them because he keeps getting them in the shop.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the thing. I mean, if the game wants to give you bards, then you use a bard. Why not? It's if you don't have anyone else to really put in at the time, then go for it. But I would think at any point here, if he finds like another Star Guardian or like basically another Star Guardian, you would put that in over the bard.
Yeah, it's tough because
Nico?
You just don't get Lulu very often. So
yeah,
sometimes like we're talking about, desperate times calls for desperate measures, and
yep,
it's like bard is like a tank, also generating some meeps, which is kind of important because he's rolling down. So bard helps you get back some effective gold because 4 exp does cost 4 gold.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, he's generating gold for himself right now.
Yeah, I mean, and if you can get 4 meeps per round, which is what he did, you're essentially saving 4 gold, and you're leveling at a quicker pace than some of your opponents too. So, yeah, he's a good holdover until you can find the Lulu.
Yeah, he's still rolling down. Wow, it's pretty generous when you start having to roll at 7 when you have like 4 or 5 gold per turn. But he really needs to hit his power spikes, and this is the biggest. Oh, he found cast too, but he needs to sell his Soraka.
You gotta sell that Soraka. Yeah, it's way too big.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah. Feels bad to sell the Soraka because Soraka 2 can be a big boost as far as healing goes, but your carry is Cassiopeia, so hitting a 2-star on the actual carry of your team is a much bigger buff.
Oh, definitely. Soraka is very, very important actually for this composition because it's what gives your composition sustain.
Yeah.
And without it, things get shut down really easily. Nature's able to just burst through everything with that Giant Slayer Last Whisper IE combination. That's kind of what we were talking about. It's like 3 out of some of the best items that you have.
Right.
And so right now, Kiting is in danger of potentially exiting out here in bottom 2.
Well, that's the funny thing here too, is that you are worried about getting the Soraka 2, but then you run into boards like that where like a Soraka 2 doesn't matter because all your team is getting one shot anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So there is that. So I think it was the right decision to build the Cassiopeia 2, even if it is didn't work out that particular round. But it is a rough looking situation for Kiyoon here, and Nature's like something is going wrong, unfortunately, with Nature's approach right now, where he's been consistently bottom 4 all day, and it's rough to see, but it's tough sometimes to make adaptations in a new patch like this.
Yeah, it looks like Kiting is pretty unhappy being contested as he is. He sees DarkHydra with the Vanguard Mystics. He saw Sphinx with it as well.
So after a little bit of maybe underrepresentation in the earlier lobbies with it, now everybody's going for it. Now it's more like a normal lobby you see on the ladder, where there's like 2, 3, 4 Vanguard Mystic players sometimes.
Right. And Vanguard Mystic is one of those compositions where you just need 2-star of everything. There's no like 3 stars that you need, and therefore you can just have 3 players in the top 3 all playing Vanguard Mystics because they all hit.
Yep.
This Jhin though from Nature's is getting uncontested. No one's focusing it. Cass doesn't have the range for it. And once more, Nature's having that Jhin with the Last Whispers cutting through Vanguards, kind of showing exactly what you were talking about at the beginning of the show, DoA. The importance of Last Whisper right now and Jin able to cut through. And I mean, Natures can get even stronger. The moment he hits Teemo 2, his
Oh yeah,
composition will now have a lot of damage and utility through slowing units down.
totally. It can be such a very, very strong comp. And he did hit Teemo too. Oh, okay. So now Natures is online. If he gets another tier, if he gets a blue buff, he's going to be massively strong because he already had the Morellos on Teemo as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, Natures may get scary, but the problem is you're in that situation again where you're basically at 1 life. 9 HP. If you lose a round from 5-1 on, you have a chance of getting killed. If you lose it hard. So it's going to be tough to hit that top 4 either way.
Yeah. Fantastic positioning here from DarkHydra. There's like 3 things he did that were exceptional. He got the Shroud off, he got the Zephyrs off, he's protecting Cass. Cass can now get into the front line a lot easier. And just this was a textbook how to position for this kind of situation, because if he didn't position correctly, Kiyoon likely actually would have probably messed up his board.
Yeah. It's interesting too. Like if you're ever curious about Cassiopeia positioning, a lot of times she'll go in that like traditional Vel'Koz slot that you see her in now, where it'll be like one of those sides up near the front because she doesn't have a lot of attack range, and you can just simply keep her safe over there. So that's the place you'll see a lot of people putting her.
Yeah, she's kind of like that Rakan range where she could play close to the front line. Sometimes you want to keep her a little bit farther back, but that's why rapid fire can is important. So that way you can extend her range. And a lot of people were like, "Oh, cast range is so bad. Like, why is it so bad? Like, make her actually like a legitimate range unit." Which is funny because in hindsight, if they actually did, it would just be straight up busted. I mean, right now it's like on the verge of it. But yeah, I think Cass is like a very, very strong unit. Now that people understand how to utilize her effectively, she's extremely reliable as a carry.
Yeah, for sure. And this is big. Being able to put the Wukong in and getting Chrono with Thresh is a pretty massive synergy buff now for DarkHydra, because it's something that is going to, buff the Cassiopeia even more.
Yeah, he did kind of weaken his front line though, because the
Little bit.
Riven 2 is way better than a Wukong 1. Oh no! He missed the Zephyr! Oh no, and then he has the Zephyr bug where it doesn't attach.
Yeah, well,
unit.
it's they kind of changed a little bit how items attach to characters, and so before you could kind of drop it onto the bottom half of a character and tend to work. Now it'll just bounce right off again if you let it go there. So it seems like it's just a little bit trickier to place items on characters, which is, it's a good and bad thing, right? Where in the past the item management system was a little bit suspect, and maybe it still is, but now it might be a little bit too far the other way. You just can't win,
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the song and dance of trying to improve your board here. But DarkHydra's still in a really healthy spot. Overall, I think he's still feeling real good. And the best part is he can play his level 9 comp at level 8 by putting in that Thresh, because we talk about how a lot of these Vanguard Mystic boards, they really want to go to 9 so that they can get that Thresh in. But now you can with 4 Mystics, 4 Vanguard, and Thresh.
It's a good advertisement for Force of Nature there. You're like, do you want to go to level 9, but it's too expensive? Well, now you can. Try Force of Nature. Get your Thresh on. That's your
right.
slogan. Get your Thresh on.
Get your Thresh on.
Yeah.
That's right.
You're welcome.
I'm hooked.
Some pro bono marketing work for you there.
Appreciate it. This is looking pretty good for DarkHydra. Just kind of crushing through. You need board not being strong enough. Has a Soraka 2 on there. Probably find ways to get through. And the kind of scary thing is that the board can still get better. You can play Nautilus 2. He can put in Mordekaiser. He's still playing Leona, a Wukong 1.
Yeah.
Kiting is out in 8th place. Nature's on a win streak. I would say Nature's the composition that he has. If he doesn't lose, in terms of the head-to-head, Nature's is one of the strongest people in the lobby right now. It's just that if he gets a really bad fight RNG or a poor matchup, he is going to die.
Yep. Still on that last life, but at least with Kiyoon in 20 at 5th, he's got maybe a chance to move up a couple slots. We'll see. Oh, maybe not. Never mind. I didn't see. I didn't see DarkHydra playing against Nature's right now.
Cass gets hit back by the Gnar, which keeps Jin safe. Jin just wailing from the back. He wants to kill that
taking some
Cass.
damage
He
now.
gets the Cass kill.
Wow.
Huge.
Yeah. That's the thing, is at the end of the day, the Jin can just one-shot your carry. And that's big. Like that, I think that was a top person in the lobby, and Nature's got the win. So he may hit top 4 yet.
That's right. These items are super good. What the heck? This is like best items carousel. GA, Deathblade, Giant Slayer, Infinity Edge, Shojins.
See what everybody ends up with.
Yeah.
There's few enough remaining that everyone should get a pretty good item here.
Shojin for sure. And you can even
Yep.
give Shojin to a few different utility champions. The first is Lulu that you want to play. So if he's feeling frisky, he could go ahead and put that Shojin onto Bard because he's going to replace Bard with Lulu anyways. But another good user of it that I think is underrated is Soraka. I think Soraka is like low-key one of the best users of Shojin. Thresh is also very good, obviously, if you have, but he doesn't even have a good bench yet. So he's also a good app.
We're going to move over to check out what Gunmay is up to, and he is running Brawler Blasters. Well, I guess Brawler Rebels is more accurate now, despite Jinx kind of being your main carry. Aurelia as well. He's got really good items on Aurelia, too. Interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of like a Rebels flex build. Like,
Blade Master.
Jinx carry, Jinx and Friends, Jinx BS, whatever you want to call it. And overall, it's still very good. Has very close to ideal items on Jinx. But with a Trap Claw and Infinity Edge. Some people really like having that last slot be Rapid Fire Cannon lately, but I think Runins, Red Buff, Giant Slayer, all still very good.
For sure. It seems like this board right here looks to me like kind of the evolution of the Kale comp, right? Where you build around Jinx, you can go a couple different ways, and you can add those secondary carries in, like the Aurelia. Be very flexible with what you play around the Jinx, whether it's Brawler Blaster, whereas more Rebels. Adding Blade Masters like this is really cool. But this is the kind of fluid play style I think that Gunmay really wants to prioritize in his own play right now.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Jinx compositions basically are the new, like, stay open, play whatever you get, play best board, and just adapt to the state of the game.
Yeah.
Because you could totally go the traditional route, just playing 4 Brawlers and Blasters. You can kind of play a Rebel route. You can even play, like, a Space Pirate, like, Gangplank-centric route. I've seen that work. So yeah, I think, and Jinx is kind of the centerpiece of a lot of that, just to give you that damage plus your utility is how you want to outfit it.
So he did take a loss there to Crvor, who is once again going mech, and once again actually going for the GA on the mech. Interesting. That's a couple games now that he's putting GA on the mech.
Yeah, it feels like to me that's a risky setup, because if someone decides to just play Urgot, that mech is gonna die super quick. So I hope for his sake that that there's not many Urgot players in the lobby. There is one player that would be doing that. It's Kiyoon, but he's out in 6.
He's gone, yeah.
Because Urgot Thresh is a win condition for a lot of the Cybernetics players, and it looks like Kiyoon wasn't able to get it. Nature once more with that comeback at 9 HP, still on that win streak. We'll see if he's able to complete the reverse comeback here from being last in the lobby to potentially landing at the top.
He's so close, and he needs a win like this. He still may not be able to make top 8, but it would feel good at least for sure to break into the top 4 for one game. There's a Rage Blade now for Gunmay. He throws in the Lucian for Cybernetic, and so that's just going to make that Aurelia even stronger now.
Yeah. There's a lot of pride on the line here for these players too, because some of them more than just the money, and like it's just like the idea that they want to have the validation of them being a top player. They hear so much hype around Delicious Milk and Polt and even Kiyoon, right? Like players in this tournament that they're like, Natures is a player that is well respected by his peers. He does coaching for people like Scar and whatnot, and if he's not able to kind of back that up with results, I'm sure it would hurt him deep in his soul, even more than just the fact that he lost.
Yeah, it would definitely be rough.
So that guarantees a top 4. Natures wins again. He might eliminate yet another player, but DarkHydra ends up dying, and so that Vanguard Mystic build once more might not make the top 3. it's a consistent build, but I think people are really adapting to it right now.
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons why it finds so much success on ladder as well is because people are thinking so much right now about their own builds and trying to figure out what they're doing, that the players that can play something, let's be honest, relatively easy to field like Vanguard Mystic have a lot more time for things like scouting, a little bit more positioning and all that than all the players that are really trying to figure out the new comps right now. So I do think we're going to see, Vanguard Mystic drop off a little bit here.
All right. Oh no, DarkHydra scouted the Jinx perfectly. Got the Zephyr off, and Jinx is going to take, a few more seconds to reset. That Giant Slayer is going to be huge, though, against Vanguard Mystics in particular, and Jinx is still safe. Wukong finishes ultimate before he's end up getting there, but it's just too much. This is a massive loss. 34 down to 10.
Did he kill anyone? That was crazy.
That was huge.
That was an insane Zephyr.
And
wow.
No one else died.
That hurts. Yeah, nobody died. So it's a very, very tight lobby right now. Natures could totally take first place here.
Yeah, and looks like Gunmay trying his best to scrap together potentially a top 3, maybe even a top 2, if he's able to get a good matchup. I think he would actually match up really well into Natures, interestingly enough, because of Irelia. Irelia could actually jump onto Jinx.
Yeah, that is true.
Oh no, he doesn't want to go into a mech though. Oh, but the Irelia is going to target the gangplank. That's huge.
Yeah, and now able to get into the back line against some of those infiltrators. Getting those early kills with the Irelia is big, but that mech taking a long time to go down. Jinx is like one hit away from dying. The mech pilots, they only pop out with a little bit of health now, though, so you just can't carry post mech the way you used to be able to, and that's going to knock Crvor out of the game. So Gunmay at least in third, if not even better. Wow. Yeah, second place. I was going to say, because we were probably going to lose 2 people there. So it's just DarkHydra and Gunmay at the end of the day.
Oh, and he has some really good options. Shroud of Stillness looks great. Could end up picking up even more anti-armor through the Last Whisper.
Right.
You could have it on Ezreal, for example, and Ezreal will apply that if he gets lucky enough to go ahead and disable that armor. But I think the Shroud is just most important to stop Cassio from going off to potentially disrupting Lulu.
Probably is, yeah.
Might be able to do this. However, I will say this matchup against DarkHydra's Mystic Vanguard is one of the hardest comps for this Jinx build to overcome. Part of the reason why I feel like Jinx builds have fallen off is because of that.
Yeah. All right. Rageblade red buff on Lucian now, and he's got the Thresh in there as well, but he needs some more people to pull in. Ezreal Janna, pretty solid, some CC. So the EMP is strong.
Oh no! Once more, Jinx gets knocked up.
Yeah. How do you find him again? Anymore. Yeah, it's really tough when your Jinx gets CC'd like that, and you spent a lot of time figuring out the comp. The Janna comes in. God. The Janna came in with a big time CC, and that might actually be enough. Oh my gosh. It was
the catalyst. The Nard knocked everything up, which stalled long enough for Jan to get pulled in, which gave Jinx enough time to reset. And Gunmay, with the Jinx carry composition, able to carry it home with the first place victory. Well done.
Wow. That's really cool, actually. We're seeing like a good variety of things be strong, and we're seeing a lot of room for players to adapt and sort of change their compositions on the fly, too. You saw him, making little adaptations right to the very last round, and that's what ended up winning it for him. Let's take a look at the standings. Gunmay going to jump up to second place on the day with that. Crvor still in first place, gradually going down, though. It was first, then second, then third. So he's slowly sliding on the rankings, but still an extremely good day for Crvor.
That's right. He has to get fourth for the cycle.
Yeah, exactly.
How it works.
He doesn't want that, but yeah.
It's true. If Gunmay gets first, he is guaranteed to be first place for today, because he will have 2 first place. But overall, yeah, I gotta say that right now Jinx compositions are in a weird place. I would say that its best attribute is that it seems to be beating up on the Cybernetics builds, which seem to be beating up on a lot of builds that aren't necessarily Mystic Vanguards, unless they get the Last Whisper on Vayne. And those compositions, Mystic Vanguards, gets beat by snipers. So it's like a pretty good wheel right now. And as you can see, even though people aren't really playing a lot of Jinx, it's still a very viable composition. 2 games in a row now, a Jinx-based composition won the lobby.
Yeah. It's really, really interesting. Again, because of all the different things you can build around it. In your wheel of who beats who, though, we just still need to find out what sorcerers beats, if anything. That's the next question.
Right.
Yep. That may
Right.
take weeks to answer, though.
It may take a while to answer, but for the most part, I think that's just a sign of a healthy metagame, which is that if something becomes too prevalent, there are counters to it. And I
Yeah.
think that part of the argument against certain metas in the past was that didn't feel like there's a lot of counterplay or like options to go about things. But one of the big, I think, hidden MVPs of the item changes is Giant Slayer giving you true damage bonus to your spells and your attacks. And so I personally need to be incorporating more Giant Slayer into my play. And I think all of you should be just in general, thinking about Giant Slayer a little bit more, both from a in-game and outer game perspective.
Yeah, and from a place you go to watch TFT content as well.
Exactly.
Think about Giant Slayer in that category too.
That's right.
No bias.
Yeah. Last galaxy here is going to be Galactic Armory.
All right. What's it going to be?
Some ridiculous combinations lately.
All right. Red buff Zizurot portal. Okay.
Wow. All right.
Here we go.
So red buff, I mean, everyone's minds immediately go towards some kind of blaster-based composition.
Mm-hmm. They sure do. It's the best use of red buff. And it makes the grace with the chain vest not quite as good.
What?
Oh, whoa! All right,
so
that is strong.
The first thing that you have to think about is what can I do with this? And brawler blasters or some kind of blaster composition is good, but then you have to also think what is left open that can also utilize this because everybody else is thinking about level 1. So what is level 2, DoA?
Yeah, that's that's the thing. Like, who else really uses red buff? Maybe you go for some sort of hyper roll comp so you can make the most use out of Zizurot portal. I don't know. But I think in the end, it's just nice to be in Gunmay's position where you've got the head start on what's arguably the best way to use these items.
Yeah, I would say that the level 2 would be cybernetics and then you wouldn't have to play necessarily a Vayne-centric composition. You can play a little bit more Irelia-centric and then play Lucian and Echo, or maybe just give Echo red buff as well, and then play the Riven-based Blade Master synergies. So that's like another option. I would say that's probably like level 1.5. Most people understand that Lucian with red buff is really good.
Sure.
And then the last thing, to consider for a lot of these players is, what are the compositions right now that are being left open? I haven't seen anyone even try to play any kind of Blade Master build today with Yasuo Mastery and Zed.
Very
And
true.
I kind of wonder if because everyone's going to be leaving up those kinds of units for this game, is that like the opportunity to play something like that?
Yeah, it's possible. Sometimes it gets a little bit tricky where the Rebels players are taking some of the Blade Masters. But I agree. I think it would be neat to see somebody try that out. Yeah, I think it's okay to slam the Bramble Vest on the Graves for now. Why not? Zizurot portal, that looks like a pretty strong level 3.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's pretty strong because they have red buff and Zizurot portal. It actually comes down to, do you have any 2-stars?
Right.
In this case, Gunmay's going to level, but Zizurot portal gets stronger if you have 2-stars on it. So he's going to go ahead and jam whatever he can. Oh, Kiyoon. Oh, he puts the Zizurot portal on the Leona. That's interesting.
Yeah, hard to tell, when those items went on compared to when he found like the 2-stars. But I think one of the big edges that Gunmay has with his red buff is that he's going to be spreading it to everybody, whereas other comps like this one here from Kiyoon are only going to be able to put the red buff on one person at once.
Yeah. Yeah, red buff is, still very useful just for defensive stats because you do get armor and the health buff. So sometimes just putting it on the front liner like Graves, he does have the blaster effect, but sometimes it's just nice to give him stats as well.
Yeah, sure. I would agree. He's going to swap the Graves out to free those defensive items.
This is such a good opening.
Oh, yeah. Cybernetics now as well. Man, this is an extremely strong board.
Yeah,
wow.
Looks like Gunmay is set for the early game. I mean, it's strong. It's as strong as you can get for 1-stars, I think. If he runs into another 2-star comp-based composition, it could give him some problems.
Right.
But what another thing to consider too is, if things are being so uncontested, like kiting, for example, he's actually just straight jamming his sorcerer based compositions again. He made Morel Nomicon. He has a Zoe too. So, maybe that's some next level stuff as well. Or sorry, this is you need. So maybe the
Yeah.
idea is that forget the fact that you don't get any like applications of red buff. You can just use red buff on whoever you want and then just play like a composition that will be open because everyone's ignoring it.
That's kind of the flip side to the approach to Galactic Armory too, where and it's one of the ones that I like too, where you just kind of ignore the items and find ways to use them that aren't absolutely awful, but gain your strength through playing something that's uncontested, where maybe you can hit your power spikes a little bit sooner because you're going to simply be finding champions faster.
That's right. So looks like Gunmay thinking about making 10 gold. A lot of times from this position, you can even think about leveling. I love it. Love to see it. This is not something that
Why
you see
not?
very often. I mean,
Yeah, but
there's a lot of people that don't. You say why not as if like it's something that people do very often, but I don't think it's something. I mean, you do see it at higher levels, but I see a lot of
yeah.
players not do it when they really should be prioritized that win
Uh,
streak. I like going to level 5 here.
some people, yeah, I mean, some people like Polt do it very often, and I mean, and we've seen a lot of players find success with this, where when you really preserve your HP, you're going to get into situations where you're going to reach the late game, and even if your composition is a little bit inferior in terms of on the board power, you will have banked such a large amount of health that even if you start losing a bit, you're still going to be able to take a top 4, if not like a top 2 or 3.
Yeah, and I think that people really want that early 10 gold, right? Because you get that early 10 gold,
Yeah,
you get the interest rolling. And so it feels really easy to want to say, I'm just going to make gold here. And after all, it makes sense, right? A lot of players, it gets beaten into their soul
yeah.
about eco. Like, always make sure you're considering your economy is good.
Mhm.
But that was a really nice move there from Gunmay that I've been seeing become more popular, and I've been adopting into my own play, which has been invaluable for win streaking early.
Yeah. Switching over to Sphinx now, who is playing Rebels and Infiltrators. So this is another way you can put that red buff to use, I suppose. But we haven't seen a lot of Infiltrator yet today. We saw a little bit of it from Crvor earlier, but we haven't seen like the Rebels Infiltrator thing yet. And this can be a
Yeah,
pretty strong start early.
I agree. I think this might be the early forms or formulation of perhaps that Blade Master based composition, because
Maybe.
it seems like he is committed to that. If he does want to make gold, he has to sell the Zed though.
Yeah, I think the other part of it is he used his sword already to build a giant slayer, so he'll need to find another sword and a spatula to go for something like that Blade Master build. But it could be good if he finds it. If you hit that Z3, you are so strong with that build.
Yeah, I don't think he should sell anything right now. I think that like overall he wants to keep this pair. Z2 and Ziggs2 would be significant bumps up.
Yeah.
Um, and overall, it's kind of like what we're saying. Rebels does have so much flexibility with how he can pivot. Finds an early Teemo.
Wow.
Is that worth considering at
Oh,
all?
it's so tempting. I mean, the thing is early Teemo might just be worth it to put in just because early Teemo is strong, and that's the only reason. He
Yeah,
won't cast very much though. That's the thing.
it is a little bit dicey because he doesn't have like a Caitlyn. He doesn't have any AP items whatsoever. His only mana item is a Frozen Heart, so it doesn't look good. But it was at least worth thinking about. He's going up against Gunmay, who did losing
Hmm.
that previous round. So only Kiting is undefeated here.
Interesting. All right. Well, let's see how the Nocturne goes. The suppression is really strong, actually. Oh, it almost killed that Lucian. That would have been big. If the Lucian would have died, it looks like he still will win it, but it wouldn't have been quite as close.
Yeah, red buff. Red buff is pretty big. Even if your Lucian escapes with his dash, he's not going to escape forever.
Oh boy, here we
I
go.
wonder if this ends up becoming a tie.
Might be. Oh no.
Almost.
I was getting ready to start the Mortal Kombat music and everything with the two Zerot minions going at it against each other.
Ooh, two
Test your
Alawies.
might. Oh. Alawi too. All right.
Yeah. So the moment Sphinx picks up a Jinx, he is going to be in a really good spot. This
Yeah.
overall looks like a very strong like prep for Brawler Blasters, but I guess you can say that about everybody. Everyone has red buff. Everybody
Yeah,
has
true.
the rot portal.
I think it's crucial to keep your HP high. So at least if he's going to do this, he's been one of the people to, come out of the early game unscathed, relatively.
He has a Runin's Hurricane.
Yeah. Zephyr is the possibility. I like the Runins, though. Those still seem like really good items on Jinx.
Jeez. Okay, so he's getting introduced with so many 4-cost units that could keep baiting him, but it doesn't look like he should be here. Stay the course. Does he make a Runin's Hurricane here? Is kind of a question. I think if you don't expect a lot of Vanguard Mystics, you don't need that nearly as much. You could get away with playing Runins and Red Buff and Giant Slayer on Jinx.
Yeah, he's kind of debating on maybe doing like a frontline Zephyr as well. Because it's, again, it's just a strong item that gets stronger as the game goes on. So it's, usually a pretty good idea to get one early.
Yeah, I was talking with my buddy, and it feels like Zephyr early is one of those items that I think is underappreciated right now because it's not flashy. It's not the sexy new thing that you want to be doing, right? I think jamming Zephyr early. I think as the set develops, you might see people start to slam Zephyr a little bit early once they figure out what they can do with items and their limitations. Part of the reason why I feel like that's not happening right now is because people feel like they can hold the items for even better combinations. And so you might see people be a little bit more hesitant and conservative.
Yeah, I've always really liked the early Zephyr, especially in the front line, because, a lot of people think about, oh, well, what champions can I get to get the big, CC, the big ultimates on my team? And, you're kind of like, well, what if I told you you could just build this item and immediately get a really impactful CC every time, no matter what? And I think that is undervalued sometimes.
Totally. I think that Zephyr is still one of the most universally good items that goes in every single comp possible.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're never wrong for wanting to make it. It's all about could you have done something better, and I think that's what ends up tripping a bunch of people up.
Right. There's some items where when you put them on your comp, it's not really going to make you stronger. Like a red buff and sorcerer is probably not going to do a whole lot for you. But Zephyr is one of those items that will always 100% of the time make your board better.
It's true. Speaking of which, by the way, look at this Nocturne with red buff, just absolutely doing everything that he fears ends up slowly burning down, and he has Giant Slayer to go into it.
Yep.
Sphinx really showcasing the power of Nocturne as an item holder, which
it's
great. I think it's very versatile.
Funny enough, like one of the silly games I spammed on the PBE last week was a game where I just re-rolled into a Nocturne 3 and then just gave him items and watched him wreck entire teams. It is funny. I don't think it's going to be good in live, but as a 3-star, he does get really, really scary.
What items did you give Nocturne?
I don't even remember anymore, honestly. That was like a week ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I kind of was just like, well, he's my 3-star, so I'll put all the items on him.
Got it.
But I did win the game, which was weird.
For sure.
Ended up being like I think it's like a brawler 4 infiltrator game. It was very strange.
For sure. This is really nasty to have Zed steal AD and slow their attack speed. That seems like a double whammy.
Yeah.
And then he goes right back to the Astral. See, this is something that I actually don't really understand. Is sometimes the AI targeting looks really genius, and then it drops aggro one time, and then it's like the champion doesn't know what to do.
Yeah.
It's very amusing to me, but also pretty frustrating sometimes because I feel like sometimes I feel like I understand exactly how it's going to go, and then like the champion just stops doing what I.
Yeah, I've had the same question many times where it's like, why did you target this person instead of this person? It's one of the mysteries of the universe, man.
For sure.
Yeah.
Sync says he saw the glove on Jin being taken, which is a high priority. I wonder if he's just going to take another sword. Nope, actually got stolen away. So Sphinx's options are limited. He might be able to pick up a rod here.
Yeah, can make an Ionic Spark out of this, which is, it's always a solid item to put on your team.
Yep, Ionic Spark doesn't need Morello since he has a red buff. Yeah, Ionic Spark is reasonable on Zed as well since he's pretty tanky and he has all these defensive.
Yeah, with him jumping into the back lines, and if you think about what's in the back line right now in this meta, where like you've got a Cassiopeia, Teemo, there's a lot of stuff that casts fairly frequently, and so that Ionic Spark is going to be able to give you pretty good value. Okay, we're on board with Crvor now, actually, which and Crvor looks like he may not be going mech here. He certainly doesn't have a champion start for it, but he does have some items, so it's awkward, but it's possible.
Oh, ye of little faith. You think Crvor's not going mech?
It's you'd have to expect that he would, but it's looking like it's going to be a little bit tougher to make that swap this time.
Yeah, I mean, I think that he has the Bramble Vest, and he already has a Shaco holding things like Zeke's and Bloodthirster. I think he's seriously thinking about it. If not
should
already
be
planning for it. Just because it doesn't feel like his items translate well to many other comps. His other items that could go well would be like Dark Stars. Interesting enough, by the way, Dark Stars is still a comp.
Have you played it yet?
Have I gone to it? No, because one, I don't know how to build it. I only see what the end game looks like, and as we know from previous metas, outside of that one patch where Dark Stars was super busted, you can't just really jam Dark Stars and incrementally add it over time.
Right.
Very well. So,
yeah, I haven't tried it yet either.
I haven't been able to test it myself. But you can play like these kinds of items in a Dark Star based composition because you can make Shaco carry like a thing. But
right, and now that all the allies that die buff the Dark Star characters, suddenly just putting in 2 Dark Stars a splash on your team is really strong.
Yeah, it's not like the most amount. I think 2 splash is like 8 attack damage and AP, but every little bit can help sometimes when you're playing in lobbies like this. That being said, looks like Crvor is dropping off pretty significantly, and he has been kind of taking it slow. I wonder if his plan is to go to 7 and roll, or if he's going to roll a little bit on 6 for soft roll and try to get those mech people.
We will see. We'll see what he gets from infiltrators. That's the real question here. But yeah, I think we're in for a roll down from Crvor, because you need to get the mech online at this point. He has 0 mech pieces right now, which is a little bit concerning.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder if he's even going to consider, like, kind of what you were talking about just a few minutes ago. You know, if he's not, what is his backup plan? Like, what is his alternative? Because this board isn't a board that's going to get anywhere close to the top 4 right now.
Oh yeah, it's just kind of a bunch of different stuff with like a little bit of rebel stuff, and that's it. Right. So, well, yeah. I don't know. I don't know if you can go into mech from this too easily. Yeah, again, you can sell stuff back for greater value in set 3.5. But it is awkward. He's looking at rolling down like everything he's got just to get 1 mech, probably, if he's lucky.
Yeah, it looks like he's still committed to playing best board. Slapping in this Mystic. When I say best board, like, he's not necessarily committing to a comp. He's just kind of playing while ecoing. He also could just play straight up Rebels. It's just that Yasuo doesn't have like super good items, and you do want to transfer things like red buff to Jinx. And also, it might be one of the most contested comps in this lobby because everyone has a red buff.
Right. That's a bit awkward for sure.
Yeah.
That said, I mean, he has put together a board.
Nature's actually might be farming more meeps than he can handle, so he actually has to sell his meeps. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, DoA, isn't there a cap to how many meeps you can generate in a round?
I don't believe so. I think
a slot. You can't have more than I thought, because they kind of like pop and disappear.
I think they can hold an infinite number. I think it's just that if you don't have any room on your board, then you just don't get meeps at all.
Okay. Because I saw the animation. It looked like they were like snapping or popping. And it made me think that, are they like over?
You can hold, and again, like, I'm not 100%, but I'm pretty sure you can hold an infinite number of meeps on there. And the counter just keeps going up, even if you can't visually see every single one of them.
All right. I think it's because you can't see beyond a certain number of them. So it made me think very briefly that it was like capped out. But that is fun to always like rack up the meeps there. Nature's
it's a lot of XP
and greeting.
Yeah, down to 33 HP. So Nature's again in a rough spot here. Looks like Crvor is going to take a loss here, a pretty significant one. And the question is now is what is he waiting for? He finds an Annie. You need to make something happen. He's got the Rumble. You just need to find the Fizz to get the mech. But even when he does, will that even be an improvement to his board?
Yeah, that's definitely a question because level 3 mech, which is 1-star Annie, 1-star mech, or 1-star Rumble, 1-star Fizz,
Right.
is pretty abysmal. In terms of like what it does as a frontliner, it still can generate pretty decent amount of damage if it gets its ability off, but it feels like it pops so easily. And then all your 1-star units come out with a 3rd health.
Yeah.
It feels pretty weak. So a lot of times you really want to have at least like a level 5 mech. Um, and right now I'm not sure how much how much time he'll get to be able to amass those resources.
Not a lot now, as he's down to sub 50 HP. You can definitely see the stress building a little bit on his face here. This game is not going so well, and you know when you commit yourself to one style every single game, you do run into situations where sometimes you just low roll, and this is one of those times for Crvor, it seems.
Yeah, it's awkward. He just needs a glove so they can make the QSS.
Yeah,
Kiyoon dodges right past it. Looks like Kiyoon was entertaining the idea of the spatula. If he wants to play cybernetics based compositions, spatula is very important right now.
right. Now we can see there was a Fizz on the carousel, but it's good that he didn't go for that just for the Fizz. The item didn't line up, and having a QSS on your mech is more important than just getting a mech with subpar items. Because if you get a mech with subpar items, you're kind of just dooming yourself to a subpar result, right? Better to have no mech than a weak mech.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair to say. So now for Crvor, we'll see if he's able to get that mech online. But for now, we're going to head over to Kiting is Hard, who is rolling down, finds a Riven as an opportunity to potentially play Blade Masters. Seem very particularly good. Needs to transition now. He's playing so many 1-star units. Okay, I mean,
Yeah,
that's a
that was
board.
interesting. that board, yep. He's playing against Crvor at least, so one of the weaker boards in the lobby right now, probably. Might
Yeah,
not
both
be.
these players, awkward transitions. And it's like, you expect, again, Jinx to be super contested. But, for Kiting, he actually has like a very reasonable front line. And almost all of the stuff is 2-starred
Yep.
that he swapped in.
I think that's really it, is that you do have that sustain in the front line to get the damage done over time.
Also, one thing that's becoming kind of important is just like having Thresh just as a one of in your build, even if there's not a lot of synergy right now. Like Thresh is just completely like there's nothing that he adds. The third chrono is relevant. The Mana Reaver doesn't do anything, but
Sure.
the fact is that he can just get more stuff on the board is actually kind of important.
I like that he's got the fourth chrono in there with the Wukong. You bring up an interesting point in that I think in 3.5, the 5-cost minions feel more like the 5-cost champions from the earlier sets, right? Where a lot of them are just so good that you can just stick them in comps that they may not necessarily synergize with. And I like that. Picking up a 5-cost should feel like you're picking up something powerful, you know? So I'm glad that we're kind of back to a similar situation where a lot of the 5-costs can be used in a lot of different scenarios that don't necessarily reflect their synergies.
For sure, for sure. And almost a twist of irony there. Kiting loses to Need, who is playing Star Guardian Sorcerers, turning Riven into a Star Guardian, which is a little bit more contentious. But, because most people say you want to give Victor the Star Guardian spat, so that way he can get his casts off a lot faster, and AoE tends to be king in the late
Sure.
game. But, Riven's still a very good user of it because it's not the fact that she inherits a lot, is that she casts a lot and therefore helps your other Star Guardian.
And you get a lot of shields that way. It's there's definitely a lot of reasons to go for that.
Yeah, totally.
I think the big reason to put it on a Victor as well is that it unlocks the ability to go 6 Star Guardian, 6 Sorcerer still, which is kind of the best of both worlds. If you put it on Riven, then it's a little bit tougher to include all that. But the jury is still very much out in terms of what's the absolute proper way to do it, you know?
Ooh, Gangplank.
All right.
It's huge. Urgot. passing up.
GP is nice, but he doesn't have a guardian angel, so it'll be a little bit tougher for him to keep the gangplank alive.
He has.
Oh, he does have a GA. What am I talking about? Yeah, I didn't see it on his bench there.
The Ezreal held the 3 completed items there, but
Right.
go ahead and put rapid fire cannon. Probably still back on the Ezreal. I guess he wants to keep Ezreal long term. Whoa, red buff on Thresh. All right.
Huh.
That's
I mean, why not?
Really a possibility.
It's one of those galactic armory situations where you can more or less kind of ignore it. Urgot gets a meal, but
I would have really liked to see Kiting also buy like the Soraka here. His Thresh was at full mana waiting to pull something in, and if Thresh can't pull anything, he just kind of sits there with full mana. So
yeah,
that could have been a small thing that would have either won in the battle or at least kill off a few more units to preserve HP. Larger area, still no Jinx whatsoever.
Yeah.
He's waiting for it, but I mean, again, a lot of people are going to be looking for Jinx. I wouldn't be surprised if like only 1 or 2 players have Jinx too in this, despite everyone looking for it.
Wow, he's going to go ahead and sell so that he can pick up the larger area. Now, the larger area upgrade did get nerfed a little bit. It doesn't cover the entire map anymore, which is probably a good thing.
Yeah,
it's something to consider.
But you know, it's not a good thing. Position your got to get pulled immediately by Blitzcrank.
Yeah.
Oh,
he ate the fizz though.
Yeah, still gets 1 kill before his dying breath. So
right.
That's nice. That's nice at least.
It could be worse, you know, and a gold as well. Congratulations. There's your participation award.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of these small, like he could have just moved Urgot and swapped it at the very last second, but a lot of these like really small things might be costing Kiting the ability to win fights or at least like get close and be more competitive about things.
Sure. Oh, faster impact is so nice here too. So one of the kind of entertaining things we're going to see, maybe you don't want to call it entertaining, but it's entertaining to me anyway, is that the play is going to be a little bit sloppier for the first week or two with this, because players are thinking a lot more about what to build, what compositions to construct. And so you lose a lot of time to put your brain power towards the fundamentals. Then you miss out on positioning, you miss out on little, economy things. So we are in for some messier games this week for sure.
Yeah, I think it's so much easier to obviously like look on from a casting point of view or from a viewer's perspective. You can be like, you can see it, but you're a lot of players, their minds are considering so many different things. One of them, of course, is, am I going to survive? 3rd place at 17 HP, and it's 7th place at 10. It's super tight. Nature's just dipped out. Kiting finally sees a Jinx with the Warmogs. He's going to go for it.
All right, he's finally got it. Finally.
Yeah.
Better late than never, I guess. But poor Nature's though. Out in 8th place, just a really rough tournament for him overall.
Wow.
And that's probably his exit from the tournament then.
Sphinx is so BM. He has 3 Jinxes and he's keeping 2 on the bench because he knows everybody else wants the Jinx.
I love it.
And it's costing everybody life. That is so smart. It's something that Mortdog has been talking about for so long, which is if you know other people want these kind of units, hold it on the bench and make life difficult for everybody else.
Oh yeah, we've been saying that for a while too, that denying champions is definitely going to be a big part of a part of what makes a good pro player.
Yeah, but it's funny because, it was like a lot of pro players disagree with that. They're like, oh, you're like gimping your own gameplay.
It seems so weird to me.
And it seems like strictly wrong to do something like that. A lot of players have spoke out against it.
That's always seemed so strange to me, because if you can do it in a way that doesn't hurt your economy, and it hurts them a lot more than it hurts you. So
yeah.
I don't know.
I mean,
I've always disagreed with that, but
it's hard. It's hard to convince me that holding 8 golden bench doesn't hurt your economy at all. But,
yeah, exactly.
I think that it's still the point being made is that it still can be very effective, and it's on display here.
Sure.
And now Kiyoon, he's down to his last life effectively, but he is online. His vein is up, Kiting's out, Gunmay's out, DarkHydra.
Oh,
and now our top forward
just like that. The top 4 are decided. Okay.
I guess Warmog's Jinx ain't it. But if you watched Delicious Milk stream earlier today, which I was keeping an eye on as I was doing some work, he actually played Warmog's Jinx for a little bit, and in very Milk fashion, kind of was going through a lot of high highs and low lows, saying this is the best idea I ever qualified. This is the worst thing that I've ever could have done. It was very
That's kind of the essence of playing TFT right now in the new meta is like, one game it seems like you're the best idea ever. The next game you're like, what in the world was I thinking trying to play this?
yeah. Oh
It's
wow,
fun though.
really interesting that Kiyoon is keeping this Caitlyn on his bench because he wants to keep it for his cybernetic splash for Vayne. But looks like Kiyoon doesn't even get the
Oh,
benefit of it. He is out in fourth place. Sphinx with that Jinx 2 early on, stacking his Jinx advantage is just too much to come back from.
but check this out though. Crvor in second place right now. He is having an amazing day across these the 4 games. So really kind of bringing that mech play experience and adapting it to the new meta very successfully so far.
Yeah, and I believe with Crvor getting into the top 3, no one can catch him in points, so that should put him as our day's winner. We'll go ahead and give that final confirmation after this lobby ends, but he was ahead by a few points over everybody else, and second place was Gunmay.
Yeah, and Gunmay
Here,
went out in
and it's
6th, so yeah, you might be right. I'm looking at the scores right now. That seems right, but we'll wait and see. There's a Titan's Resolve for Sphinx. Could just throw it on the Gnar. Why not?
yeah, so another thing that right now Sphinx is doing that is, I think, becoming more important is itemizing Fizz. So he's playing 4 Brawlers, 2 Blasters, and then he's playing the Rebel package, but instead of playing like a Blade Master or like a Ziggs for Demolitionist, he plays Zed, and then he gives himself the Infiltrator bonus and a bunch of AP items to Fizz. And Fizz is just a good unit right now. I would say that
Yeah.
Fizz arguably is one of the best forecasts just in terms of raw power level right now with no items and at 1 star, which is kind of surprising to say because, in the past that wasn't.
Well, that's part of the changes that came through for the mech pilots too. Is although it looks like he's going to lose this round, but that's part of the changes that came through with the mech pilots is that they're all individually stronger now, which makes them more useful in other comps than just mech, which is really cool to see.
Yeah. And now Sphinx has waited for long enough. He waited for all the Jinx players to die. He's been saving up his gold, finds Aurelion Soul, finds the Gangplank. So the transition possibilities are here. Another Aurelion Soul. I think that might be worse so they can give Aesol the Viz items.
Possibly.
Okay, no. Doesn't seem like he wants to do that. He wants
Yeah,
to
holds
stay on
off
the
for
fish
now.
train. He wants to find Jinx 3, obviously.
Yeah, he was so close, 2 Jinx away. But I'm trying to remember. Does you need? No, you need is running that sorcerer comp with the triples easy rot, triples easy rot Nico.
Woo! Look at that Fizz destroy that back line, weakening everything
Yeah.
for Jinx. And that's another additional benefit is that things that like do big splash AoE and weaken the opponent activate the Jinx. Oh no, Uni looks like he's dead if he can't handle Crvor's pressure.
Yep, seems that way. And it is the top 2, Crvor versus Sphinx
Wow.
here.
One
Can you find
more
the Jinx?
Jinx. One more Aurelion Soul.
Yep. And we'll see. We'll watch on the sidebar to see if he hits it on board with Crvor now. Pretty typical mech build with that. And you can, no doubt, he's looking. Oh, the Jinx 3 gets found by Sphinx.
That's huge. That's really, really huge. And I would argue that he needs to just kind of slap in this Thresh to maybe pull the
Yeah.
Lulus. And he's going to do it actually because the Thresh is the leftmost unit. So his hope is that the Lulu can come pulled in and impact the game. But I mean, this is tough to come back from. Jinx 3 gets down to the Shaco though. I can't believe it.
Yeah. Wow. The Shaco got back there and actually did some work. That is amazing. Huh.
Fizz is
I
not
mean, that's
dying,
the thing.
though.
Like a lot of people have been trying out not building defensive items on their carries, but
Oh, this Gnar. This Gnar is so hard to kill. He needs Shaco to go in, the stun from the Demolitionist, and he gets the
enough.
win. He is on match point here. As
Can he find the Jinx again next round? That's the question here.
Sphinx has the Rebel spat. He also could try to just. Oh, he's just gonna pick up the Chalice of Power. All right.
All right. Yeah. Could see that. Bramble Vest for Crvor. What do we put it on though? Probably, I guess it's on a Thresh anyway. So now you just find the Thresh too, right?
Yeah,
You hope so, anyway.
survivability. He wants Urgot. He wants another good pull. Doesn't see anything of value, so he's gonna once more. Oh, one thing that's actually been interesting is that he's been putting Karma in a position where it's kind of been harder to reach, and that redemption is very interesting to me. I actually haven't noticed that. That redemption actually might have been secretly MVP.
Possibly. Let's see how he does in this final round against Sphinx. Jinx getting a lot more time now. Shaco now getting onto the Jinx. There's just no defense. The Jinx 3 just has nothing that she can do to stop getting offed by Shaco. And that's Crvor out of his seat. He's going to win another game and easily take first place in the lobby today.
What?
I think.
Oh my god.
That was way too close. Crvor
There
takes
you
it, though.
go. Mech is able to get over the hump. Crvor with his farewell tour of competitive TFT. Because again, if you missed it, he ended up announcing his retirement from trying to compete in TFT and streaming to pursue, a professional job again, working as a consultant.
Maybe this is going to change his mind. Who knows?
What a fantastic way to begin that farewell tour by qualifying for the finals.
It's pretty strong. So at the end of the day, 35 points for Crvor, which is almost 1 point away from tying Kiyoon for the best day we've ever seen a player have in a Giant Slayer series. Kiyoon had two firsts and 2 seconds. Crvor has 2 firsts and a second and a third. So really close to the best day ever for Crvor today.
Yeah, you should be proud with the ability to play a composition that no one else was really thinking about. I mean, if you do think about Mech, you're thinking about Mech Sorcerer a lot of times.
Yeah.
Right now, he's just kind of playing like I guess the way I would just say it is just a solid, balanced Mech composition.
Yeah.
Maybe like Mech Demolitionist. I'm not even sure. It just seems to be like a really sturdy, like Mystic Splash, Sorcerer Splash, Infiltrator Splash.
I mean, you know how when we talked about Kale comps, it was Kale comp, but there was a lot of other stuff around it that could vary depending on the lobby, depending on the situation. And I feel like maybe we start talking about Mech in that context as well, where it's just Mech play, but what you build around the Mech can change from game to game. Very interesting.
Well, after the second to last day of regular season play, Kiyoon, Gunmay, and Crvor are the top 3 players. DarkHydra, very quietly putting on a consistent performance, ending in 4th, and then Need from today's lobbies getting into 5th. Sphinx does sneak into the top 8, but barring a very unlucky series of performances from Lev, Aegon, and Ine, it doesn't seem like Sphinx is likely to make top 8. But
Yo, guys.
That's right. Hey, we got Crvor with us here. Congratulations. Doing great. I'm assuming you're doing pretty good too. That was an amazing day.
Yeah, it was actually a pretty great night. Not gonna lie.
So you believed in the Mech, huh? You were playing Mech for the last 2 weeks as well. Last week was a little bit on the rough side, but you decided to just carry on and see what you could do in Mech play in 3.5, huh?
Can I be honest with you and tell you how much I believed in it?
Absolutely.
The thing is, I have never played a 3.5 game before tonight.
What?
So
really?
I'm pretty believing in it. Yeah, really.
Wow.
That was my first. I was actually reading the tooltips and stuff because I wasn't very familiar with the character, the new characters.
So you had never, did you play any warm-up games today or anything?
No,
or it was
no. First ever game, never played PBE, never played on live. It was the first game ever on 3.5.
Wow. That is amazing. So what did you notice then in your first 4 games ever of 3.5 with Mech? Like what are your first impressions, I guess?
Well, to be perfectly frank with you, I believe it's still the best composition in the game, but you gotta play it with a definite mindset, because I can always give you the troll answer that the chat is expecting, which is when you play Mech, it's always no scoot and no pivot and let's go, But there is truth in that, because if you commit to it, if you decide to go for it in 1-1. You can save as much resources as you can during the game, and you don't have to pay gold in order to manage your pivots and keeping the compositions open and stuff. So there is a strategical aspect on going always mecha. And there is another thing I know we discussed before, which is if the whole lobby knows that I'm gonna be forcing mecha every game, well, it's way less. I mean, this is not a situation where people want to go for it and like contest me every game. So by forcing the character, I ensure myself that I will be pretty much the one every single game.
All right. Any questions, Frodan?
I wanted to ask about your post last week about how you're going to be taking some time off or indefinitely going back to being a consultant. So obviously I use Google Translate. My French is not very good. Can you at least talk a little bit about that?
Sure. The thing is, I gave myself like 1 year to play TFT because I was a consultant working for a consultant firm in Paris previously. And I gave myself 1 year in order to play TFT, become a streamer and stuff. And I felt like I've pretty much done everything that was possible so far. I've won big tournaments in the past. I've done okay on the ladder, not like the greatest player, but like still decent. And I felt like this was pretty much the end of the thing. My personal goal while coming on TFT was for TFT to become a job for me, but as a pro player, And I never wanted to be a streamer in the first place, which ended up being my job in the end. But I never got a big offer from a big team, which led me to accept and sign a contract. So in the end, looking back, I just told myself that since I can't become a pro player, then I should just go and enjoy life in real life,
All right. Well, I mean, you seem to be enjoying life quite a bit right now with the results.
That's definitely true.
Exactly. I mean, man, like that was I can't believe that this was your first 4 games of 3.5. That blows my mind.
Yeah, it was actually, but I believe, a lot of people are saying about TFT who are novices are always saying, it's a luck-based game and it's about luck and stuff. But there is, in my opinion, it's very little, like this has very little impact on the games. And when you get the core fundamentals done, when you learn the game and not like compositions or item or stuff, it's way easier to adapt to a patch. The main thing is that most people believe that adapting in TFT means changing composition every game, but that's not the point. Like the point of TFT is winning games, dude. Like it doesn't matter which way or which strategy you are going to use in order to win. The main point is not changing characters every game. The main point is crushing lobbies and finishing on top,
Get that Skrilla.
I like it. Yeah.
Definitely.
The main point is crushing lobbies. I think that's great advice. So I guess one last question for me about the mech composition specifically. What was it that kind of led you to build the mech boards in the way that you did today?
Okay, first thing first, I'll go and give a shout out to Leo, who's one of my moderators, and he was the one who sent me like a text like yesterday telling me, I'm a GM player and I play a lot, and I am currently an OTP mech. Maybe like he was trying it on live when people were thinking that the comp wasn't that great, and he gave me like the basics when he tested it with other players from my Discord, and I'll give another shout out to Shubaka and Kezer. Thank you guys. And the whole thing was like they gave me the basic composition, which is you play mech, you play 1 infiltrator, you play Victor as a carry, as an alt carry, and you go for 2 mystics, and this is the basic. If you can go to 8, you will go for demolitionist, and that's pretty much it. Like the plan is that, and the whole thing about TFT is not what the composition, the final composition is going to be. The thought process should always be, how do I win most of the rounds while saving the most HP, you know? So the whole things today was like, I don't care about the endgame composition because I'm going to go make anyways. So I need to focus every single thing about how I'm going to reach this point, you know? And I used a lot of things that were like in set 3 and not 3.5, which is 2 Vanguard as a core and using Poppy as an item holder. I used Malphite a lot as an item holder too, while playing two brawlers with the new Ilaoi or Blitzcrank. And that's pretty much it. When you understand the key concept of the comp, which is you go for tanky units who are going to hold the stuff for you, and then you are using the other items on your alt carries. I mean, it's not that hard to understand, and it's pretty easy to pilot, to be honest.
Wow. All right. Well, I'm ready to go play Mech on the Ladder now.
See, and you already got the basics through our interview, right?
Yeah. Thank you for that. Well, awesome. I guess we'll probably leave it there. Any quick, any more shout outs before we end it?
Well, since they were my final games as a pro player, if you can call it that, on TFT, I want to give a big shout out to every single one of my viewers and my subs that made it possible for me to play the whole year. And I will maybe see you in the future, guys. Thank you so much for having me in the GSS. It was amazing.
Yeah, well, I mean, you've got a good shot of making it into the top 8 next week anyway, so it may not be quite done for you yet.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well,
there you go. You'll play next week, right? If you make it.
Retirement is not for now. Okay. Nice surprise. Okay. you see the player that is reading all the rule set and stuff and is knowing about what's going to happen. See, very professional indeed.
Absolutely. We'll see how tomorrow's games goes, but we might see you next week. So
one more week.
Sure.
One more.
Got at least 4 more games.
Thank you, guys.
Cool. All right. Thanks for stopping by, Crvor. Congratulations again.
Have a good night. Thank you, guys. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
All right. Well, there you go, guys. That was Crvor, the winner of today with his first 4 games of set 3.5 ever. That my mind is blown, Frodan. That was the most incredible interview that I've ever been a part of in a TFT.
For now, until Crvor next week, and then
seriously
get to interview him one more time, and then for the last 3 times that Crvor is going to be on camera, 3 of the last times, you have been a big part of it, DoA.
I guess so. Well, I mean, you talk about someone who really knows the game well, and Crvor definitely does. I mean, it takes an extremely good player to be able to just walk into a situation like this and just win. With 2 firsts, a second, and a third. Again, just like you said, you just do what it takes to crush lobbies, right? And play that strong early game. He did a very good job of adapting on the fly, understanding the strengths that some of the new units had in terms of getting him to the point where he could win with mech. So that was genuinely now that we know, that was his first 4 games ever on the patch. That was an extremely impressive performance, even more impressive than we thought it was.
Definitely. So with that, we are down to our last day of competition, DoA. Tomorrow, we find out who will join us in the top 8. We know Day6 in a good position. Him along with Crvor are the 2 top players that haven't played yet. That's in top 8 right now. And then basically the other 6 players, Lev, Aegon, Ine, Tien, Higa, and Sunny Lu, are all going to play tomorrow. Pretty much Kiting and Sphinx and all of them are probably not going to make it in, but we'll see.
Yeah, and even a player like Crvor probably is making it through, but it's still not impossible, depending on how tomorrow's results go. We will see, but it's going to be a good lobby. Crvor, Aegon, Ine, Tien, D6, Higa, Lev, D, Trotsky, and Sunny Lu. So that should be a fun lobby to finish off the regular tournament play with. But wow, what a crazy day today. I mean, I knew that I was going to experience things I wasn't expecting today in terms of results. Probably the most surprising one is, although I did think going into it that Vanguard Mystic would drop off at some point in the future, I didn't think we would see it perform as poorly as we did today. I think it's still strong, but I think people are already kind of figuring it out. So that was kind of a surprise. What were your takeaways from our first day of 3.5 in Giant Slayer series?
Yeah, I think that I really underestimate just straight up mech. I tried playing a couple different mech variants, maybe just like traditional mech infiltrator, and that probably looks wrong because you just have to go to 9. So I think that was definitely surprising. And also, I was pleasantly surprised to see how well Jinx comps did. I know that last lobby, like everybody wanted Jinx because you start off with red buff.
Sure.
But I think that overall, I was very pleasantly surprised to see that there were a lot of ways to make Vanguard Mystic suffer, and they didn't do nearly as well as the latter implies. But of course, this is a small pocket of sample size. Let's see what tomorrow has to offer.
That's right. And so that'll conclude the day. Big shout out to juke.gg. Go and visit that website for basically all your esports viewing needs. Honestly, they've got everything there. It's all very well organized. They sponsor a tournament, !GSS in chat will take you to the landing page where you can find all the player POVs. So we like to give you kind of a broad overview, some strategy talk, some meta talk and stuff while the games are going on. But if there's a player that you really want to study, you can go do that at the same time and watch their tournament games live, which is really cool. So thanks to Juke for sponsoring the tournament. That's going to do it for us today here at Giant Slayer Series Season 2. DoA and Frodan signing off until tomorrow. We'll see you then. It's going to be awesome. Don't miss it.